It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are here. We're going to talk about the Week D updates, the shocking insertion of advertising by Copilot into GitHub PRs. Apparently, it was just a mistake. And there's a new Microsoft 365 alternative in town, plus an amazing farm-grown brown liquor. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 977, recorded Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, Moonshine University. Hey, all you winners and dozers, guess what? It's Wednesday morning, at least here in sunny California. That means it's time for Windows Weekly. I give to you our two stellar hosts, Richard Campbell, who is in British Columbia, where it is, in fact, same time zone. Hello, Richard.
It is, for now.
From RunAsRadio.com. It will, yes, you're never changing ever again, you lucky done. Dog.
Don't ever change, Canada.
And down from Mexico City, I don't even know what time it is there. They don't change there, though. That's the good news. Mr. Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. In fact, I'm the only guy.
Mexico needs no time.
It's always
we have
mañana.
Time. It just
always
doesn't
mañana. Happy April Fool's Day. I did realize something, in the past, in many years gone by, as a tech journalist, I've always eschewed stories that shipped April 1st.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which wasn't always good because that's when Apple incorporated. That's when Google announced Gmail. So sometimes they were real, but a lot of times they were stupid and wrong, and I didn't want to report those. But now, somebody pointed out, it's April Fool's every day thanks to AI slop. You never know. You never know if it's real or not.
It's April Fool's every day thanks to our government, I think is what you're looking for.
Well, that may be too. And of course, you're talking about President Scheinbaum, aren't you? So,
I am
when
not.
You say our government.
Sorry.
Yes. So, or maybe we're talking about Prime Minister, what's his name? Mulcahy? What is his name?
Carney?
Art Carney of the Honeymooners fame.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. You guys change prime ministers like I change underwear once every few years, and I think that's confusing.
Weirdly enough, we do an election roughly every 4 to 5 years.
Does it? It works out that way? You could have them more often, but you don't.
We could, yes, because we can actually have a vote of non-confidence and follow
You're
government.
parliamentary.
Oh, what an idea.
Yeah,
what a concept.
Seems like that would be working out pretty good for us right now.
Yeah. And then your members get together and have a vote, and now it's an election.
All of a
Imagine
sudden,
it not being fixed in a date and time, so you can't spend 2 years campaigning.
That's also good.
You get 45 days.
Now, does Canada allow PAC money in contributions to election?
No, that is a distinctly American thing.
Yeah, we're unique in that respect.
Yes.
I think getting money out of politics,
are people in your town,
allowing no confidence votes, and eliminating the Electoral College, and Bob's your uncle, we're Canada.
But how on earth are we going to count all the votes? I mean, that's crazy.
That's crazy talk. Anyway, enough politics. Let's talk about Week D, baby.
It's gone so well.
You're not here for that. You're here to talk about Week D as opposed to Week T. Mr. Thurrott, would you like to kick things off?
No, but I will. So last week, I guess, I don't have a calendar in front of me. I can look at easily, but I guess it was Week D. I feel like this should have happened previous to that, but okay. Anyway, after the show last week, so apparently Thursday, I think it was, we got
because Patch Tuesday's too hard.
Yeah. Well, this is, as we'll soon see, this is also too hard.
Nice.
Yeah. Previews of the next Patch Tuesday update for Windows 11, 24, and 25H2, and also 26H1, because hilarious, nobody actually has that yet, but we're still updating it, and, we'll get to that. This is, I feel like this is going to be the rest of my life now describing these updates, because we've already talked about this before, right? So the preview update for 24 and 25H2 is the same. It adds the same features, obviously. Most of these are CFRs, meaning they're not going to show up immediately for most people. They'll show up randomly. The only ones of any note are that smart app control be something you can toggle on and off like a normal feature, which I think everyone wants. The Windows recovery environment will perform better on Windows 11 on ARM if you have to run x64 apps in that environment. I guess that was a problem before. I can't say I've run into that. Mm-hmm. And then Narrator is getting rich image descriptions in audio. And then a bunch of other small things, right? So all features.
CFR, the whole, feature release idea is kind of a compelling thing for regular applications. I just don't think people want randomness from their operating system.
Yeah. You don't think chaos is a strategy?
Yeah. Or as a feature, like it's a style. It's like,
yeah,
we don't know what you're going to get. It's going to be fun, but it's your operating system.
Yeah. So I feel like there's been an indication they're going to fix this or at least work on it for the Insider program, but I hope they do for Stable as well, right? I mean, if I understand, well, I don't think you were saying this, but to expand on what you just said, mm-hmm. Apps will update when they update, right?
Yep.
And you don't usually see that. It happens through the store if that's where you get the apps, hopefully. Yeah. But you could go to the store and you could go to downloads and you could say check for updates and then it will update the apps, right? And sure. I feel like we need that in Windows Update as well, right? So if you are what we used to call a seeker, you should be able to get in there and just say, look, no, I actually want, I want the update, give me the features, right? Yeah. I don't mind that there's some filtering at the source based on, maybe compatibility with certain PC configurations, et cetera, but that's not what they're doing, right? This is just literally random. So I don't quite get that.
I keep waiting for a new hand, the hand of Pavan to show up in the and institute some order.
Right. I'm curious what form that will take, and we'll see.
All these emergency patches, man.
We'll get to that one second.
4 or 5 in the past 2 months.
Yeah. So before we get to that, real quick, just 26.8.1 has other features we've already talked about. These have already rolled out and stable to everyone else. So emoji 16.
But these are that's the ARM only version.
Yeah, which is bizarre. So this is the Canary.
Yeah, this is when
you think about this for a second.
Really broke the model.
Yeah. Which we're going to get to too, because there's more stupidity coming. But anyway, okay. So there's that. This came out Thursday, and today Microsoft issued another emergency patch, another emergency out-of-band update for 25 and 24H2 to address issues that have been preventing users from installing the update I just mentioned, the first of the two. Yeah. So if you installed the patch update from March, which you pretty much had to have by this point, if you're an individual anyway, and then tried to install this optional update from last week, you might have run into some problems. There's a patch for that now because that's what we do. And I don't know what's going on anymore. This is the timing is weird because the decision to focus on reliability and quality, and however you want to say that, the pain points, as Pavan put it, would have come months ago, but this year has been particularly bad, not just for Microsoft's stock price, but for Windows updates, right? And we've had, like Richard said, we've had to release, or that Microsoft has had to release several patches for patches.
Yep.
Sounds like the name of a presidential dog of some kind.
Program. So if you steered clear of this, you're not really.
Well, I mean, the January ones at least were for the stable version.
Right.
This at least was a preview update, thank God. But yeah, so, but the timing feels weird because, didn't he just say we're focusing on quality? But I think these are symptoms or effects of the problems that they're trying to fix with this quality push, right?
Sure.
Like this just
and it is a big
overnight.
ship. Just because you pull the throttle back doesn't mean the ship slowed down yet.
Yeah, exactly. So thoughts and prayers. I'm sure we'll be fine. So since Pavan's big announcement about here's what we're going to do this year, right?
Make it great.
Which is good stuff. And raises questions. I raised a bunch of them myself last week after going through that post and thinking about it. But the people who are involved with this are now starting to tweet, and it's actually getting kind of interesting. I don't know how or if Scott Hanselman is involved in this, but apparently he is.
He does some work Windows related on the dev side.
So he's been, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He's been tweeting a lot about this stuff. And then some people have been around for a long time, like Rudy Hoon and others. Sorry, I'm drawing blanks on some names here. Marcus Ashe is another one. Mm-hmm. People I've known for a long time are involved in this effort, right? Which is good. I mean, I think when you think about Microsoft responding in the case of Pavan's memo or post to insiders, you're talking about enthusiasts. Who's left in the country that is an enthusiast for Windows? They're kind of gathering up this crowd, and we'll see what happens there. I know Jen Gentleman is going to be involved with this, and some others. So people have been asking questions, and so someone on Twitter X said, "Hey, I hope you're not going to do any PWAs, LOL." And what Rudy Hoon said was that he is building a new team working on Windows apps. He's looking for people that might want to join, and he's claiming that these will be 100% native apps, not web apps. Now, that's the type of thing.
Also, jump on the whole. You shouldn't have to have a Microsoft account to set up Windows.
Well, that's so. There's been no official word on that changing, right? Yeah. Scott Hanselman is one of the people who said, "Yeah, actually, that's one thing I don't like either." He's going to see what he can do about that. I don't know that he can do anything about that, frankly, but. But whatever.
Has a lot of weight, but it's a big machine.
Yep. So I just want to throw out a couple of thoughts here, because I know that when people for certain, it's like web apps are like AI. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, yeah, okay. Some people are like, oh, I don't want any of that. And I don't quite understand that reaction. Although I think I mentioned this last week. A lot of the start menu UI that we have in Windows 11 today is actually JavaScript. It's web app technology, and that is being credited or debited with the performance issues, right? That this might be the problem. And so I know for some people, they're going to hear like, we're going to do 100% native apps in Windows. They're like, nice, and if you take a step back a little bit, I mean, you could kind of make a good argument that the inbox apps in Windows 11, meaning the apps that ship with the operating system, should be demonstrative of what's possible with the platform.
Right.
That
That's
these things should.
What has been done for the past, 30 years.
It is weird to me that if you launch an app that nobody ever launches, but do it now, just take a look at it. The modern media player app is an example of a nicely designed app. Modern looking with the modern controls and all that kind of stuff. It's something most people just do not need, but it's also a little bit of an outlier. The problem with this promise of 100% native is that it's not possible. It's absolutely not possible. So the two big ones I'll throw out as examples are Outlook, which is a written from scratch, brand new version of the app that is written entirely with web technology, in part because the extensibility system that runs throughout Office today is all web-based.
Right.
That's Office not changing over. It's like, sorry guys, like that's not changing.
But dude, React Native for Windows, you can just compile your web app.
I'm going to get to that in 1 second, actually, because that's part of the problem as far as I'm concerned. But the other big one is Clipchamp. Clipchamp is literally a web app. Yep. You can run Clipchamp in Chrome on Chrome OS on a Chromebook, and it works fine. Yeah. It's a web app.
You meet the point. There's certain apps that are intended to be cross-platform and everywhere. And why, breaking that seems unwise.
Yeah. Now, look, maybe these things will be exceptions, and we'll see. But I'm trying to imagine what's left, right? So, there's a presentation you could find on YouTube that has to do with React Native and Microsoft's use of it, and how it's actually more used throughout the ecosystem than maybe a lot of people understand. Office and Windows being, big users of it. That might be changing in Office or in Windows. So I could imagine, like I said, the start menu or whatever little web UI bits are in there. Not web UI, web. I guess web view 2 or whatever they are. The Microsoft Edge piece. The Copilot app, 100% web app. It's an instance of Edge. So are they? I sort of understand people celebrating this notion that we're going to go 100% native. I feel like that. Sorry.
The issue here is that they've been hiring young developers.
Yeah.
And you can't hire young C++ developers. Like that's as rare as hen's teeth. Like the dev you can get is a web dev. If
you go back to Windows 8 and the introduction of WinRT and the way it was at that time, because it's changed a bit since then, right? We went through UWP and now we're on the Windows App SDK. But the original vision, the original implementation of this was that you could, of course, use C++ or C# and write these apps, and they are, native. Really, they're a thing on a thing on a thing, but whatever they are, but they're native.
Oh no, dude, it's turtles all the way down, right?
Yeah, but some of the main.
That's one reason you would use an Electron-like flow is because it's portable. I know Windows is the only operating system in the world, but if you write codecs in Electron or Edge or whatever, you can put it on any platform.
That's true. But the original WinRT platform, you could write in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and that would be a native app, and it would be Windows only, right?
Well, because Claude Code is. It's React. It's a Java, TypeScript app that compiles to JavaScript.
Yeah, but I guess, but what I mean is
source code.
Okay. But the app that was not, I don't think it was called Outlook at the time. It was just Mail. Yeah. That was written in JavaScript, right? They talked about this at the time. They were pretty proud of it, and the modern version of that, which is Outlook now, the new Outlook is, a web app. It's just a web app. Sorry. I mean, it just is. And it's not a web app because they can bring it cross-platform per se, but it is a web app because a lot of its components and extensibility parts especially are cross-platform, meaning they will run in Outlook on Mac, on mobile, or whatever, right? There's a real strategy to it. There's a real reason for it.
Right.
So I don't know what to say to this. I mean,
at the same time, there's certain places you don't expect the web to show up, like start menu.
Yeah, I don't know that
anybody actually cares whether
that's what I mean. Like what
cares does it perform?
If it just worked, would anyone care? And I think the answer is no.
Nobody cares.
If it just worked and it worked well and it was web-based and Microsoft was kind of promoting that might entice developers to work on, React Native apps or whatever that may be. Yeah, if you're a third-party developer, first of all, unless you're inside of a company and there's some very specific need, you're not creating apps for Windows. So creating them in whatever web technology, Electron, whatever, React Native, React, whatever is, that's
here's a counter argument to this, to going native like that, which is you're now making the Microsoft / Windows developers even less like the rest of the development community.
Right. Yes. Right. I mean, look, I have this book. It's called Windows Everywhere, and it's about the history of software development on Windows and all the different things that have happened over time and blah, 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 whatever. I originally started it as a series of articles on my site, and I stopped about at the halfway point because I had to reintroduce myself to the .NET era and use those languages and frameworks and things that I had never really used actively, whereas I was more heavily involved in software development before that point. And I realized during that break that where Microsoft lost the script, so to speak, on software development was actually when they reversed their original plans to make Windows web-based. It was the HTML was going to be the thing that drew the user interface. CSS was going to be the thing that styled the user interface. They were going to use JavaScript in the back end. This is 1998, 1999, somewhere in there.
You're thinking of that one, as opposed to the Win8 timeframe, which was
right.
Kind of the same thing.
Kind of, except so here's actually, yes. I'll just say it. No, not kind of. You're right. It is the same thing, because in both cases, the point was to embrace and extend an existing technology that was super popular with developers and let them into the Windows fold. That was kind of the point. Microsoft announced they were doing this, took steps to do it, started to ship a version of Windows 8 that had it in it. And then I think it was Jim Olsen convinced Bill Gates not to do this. And they literally just backtracked on the whole thing.
We're not talking about not the Win 8 version, the earlier one.
No, this is the earlier one. This is where .NET happened. This was
the battle between Brian Valentine and Jim Olsen.
Yeah, I would say
Valentine
Brad Silverberg and
Brad Silverberg, right?
Yeah,
it was Silverberg was the advert and got the Sun deal and all of that stuff.
When he lost that, I think he went to office briefly and he left. He was not happy with this, and I think it was the wrong decision. I do understand the rationale at that time for what they did, but it was probably the wrong decision. So, whether for whatever reasons, there was a distrust between Sinofsky and .NET, and Windows 8 happened, and it was something different. It was like .NET, but not .NET, and based on COM, and it was, we're still dealing with it today. It's like whatever, but yeah, that original vision for 8 was you could take web, and the idea was, look, we get it. You're out there, you're making web apps. You can take your skills, bring and apply them to Windows apps now. But they weren't apps that you could create for Windows that you would then put on the Mac or anywhere else. They were native, so to speak, on Windows only.
Well, the terror that in Windows 8 was WinJS.
Yes, that's exactly what. Yeah,
the JavaScript interfaces to get into the Windows SDK, which Windows people didn't need because they could already talk to the SDK, and the JavaScript people looked at and went, well, "That's not JavaScript." Yeah, exactly.
Look, there's
made one version for a reason.
What's the it's got it's web something. WebAssembly is like this today for JavaScript developers, right? You could target the web and using WebAssembly, maybe with Flutter or something, and maybe on the back end, or I guess the front end, what it's really spitting out is JavaScript or whatever. But that's not JavaScript. It's like but that's the thing when you're
running a different language where the JavaScript engine would normally run inside the browser.
Yeah.
So you really are coding in Go or coding in C#.
WebAssembly is like the cross-platform modern version of ActiveX. It's like we have this problem. It's called the web, and we want to bring our stuff to it. How do we do that?
There is no easy way to use WebAssembly. You just have to hold too many bits.
Yep. So native apps, okay, sure. I mean, what is the native app that anyone's looking forward to in Windows that would make a difference to anybody? Can you name one thing?
Anything you're using that isn't fast enough. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Sorry. That maybe I should have phrased that differently. Yes. So obviously the start menu, the taskbar, the desktop, the file explorer.
Right.
Explorer.exe. That stuff, yes, 100%.
The question, of course, is it going to be faster if it's native? Like, that's no guarantee.
That was the issue I raised last week. Like, in my experience, the problem has been WinUI 3, which is Windows App SDK, which is the modern version of this thing we've been talking about. And I'm not really sure that's the solution to any problem, unless your problem is things are too simple. It is
super common behavior in development when people are angry with your product. Say, if we'd only rewritten it in X, then it would be better, because that's a way to get me left alone for 6 months while you rewrite it.
Yeah, I feel like this thing was designed, like when you say, we're going to go 100% native, it's like, it's to shut people up. It's that bullet point on the list. It's like, see, we're listening to your concerns. Yeah. But if you look at the list of apps that are installed in Windows, and you think about the ones you actually use, which of them are web-based? And I don't think I could come up with one. Clipchamp, but it's a web app. I mean, Paint and Notepad.
Apps aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, those are C++ apps from a million years ago that have been, modernized in some ways. I mean, what are the apps? What are we talking about here? The web browser? The web browser is literally a web browser. I mean, what is the app we're fixing here for you? I don't know. So anyway, this is going to excite people for 2 seconds, and then we'll see what comes out of this. But
we could call it happy noises.
That's exactly what it is. But to me, like I said, so I listed the 2, and actually it's 3. So Outlook, which I don't think is ever going to change. Sorry. Clipchamp, which can't change. It's a web app, literally an acquisition. And then Copilot, which that one could change. And maybe that will be But
the performance problems of Copilot have nothing to do with its interface.
No. It's right. Right. This app could be just as crappy if it was written in native code. So who cares? I don't know. So I don't quite understand. I mean, I like that it's hard for me because I like that they're paying attention to this, right? Like all of a sudden people are energized again and we're going to get this right. And it's exciting in a way, but I also look at the promises and I'm thinking like, there's a clash with the reality here that I don't think people are acknowledging.
Sure.
So we'll see. They mean well. That much is very clear. All right. So, God, I hate that my life has become this. So the Windows Insider program released 4 builds last probably Friday, but I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Across 3 channels, because now channels don't mean, well, they mean something, but whatever. Canary has been split into 2 paths, right? So that you have the normal Canary, which has got nothing going on. It's always behind. This is the basis for 26H1.
This is the x64 Canary as opposed to the ARM.
Yeah, I mean the one you can get in the Insider program. So anyone could do this if you want it. If you want to be like slightly behind and super chaotic, enjoy this. It's hilarious. But then you could also optionally, and I assume this is still available, but it was available for a couple of weeks there at least, was opt into a different series of builds. And these are even further out than Canary. I don't know if Canary Pro, Canary R2, I don't know what you call this thing. And this is the way Canary's been for a while, but you actually have to install the whole build. It's not like you don't get a KB. You like download the build and install it like in the old days. This one is interesting because this one actually has some new stuff in it. And actually it's all related to the Windows console. Which is curious, right? So the Windows console is the engine behind command prompt, CMD, Windows Terminal, PowerShell, etc. And they're actually adding a bunch of new features to it, like regular expression search, the ability to bold fonts, various enhancements to paste, inline image support, which they specifically said that Widget will use so that it will display an app icon for the app when you do a thing like a search, right? So you will say, yep, we found Power Toys. Here's the Power Toys icon, et cetera. So the theory there is that this is probably 26H2, and that's the one that's going out to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is correct or not, but I feel like this might be the first time it's like, oh, look, there's something new, like something different that is not elsewhere in the Insider program. Yeah. So that happened. And then Dev and Beta, which are on different series of builds for 25H2, right, which is the stable version of Windows 11, have gotten a few small updates. One of them is the return of administrator protection, right? And so that was the feature they announced and released and then took back last year. This one's going to be very disruptive. This one is like UAC on steroids. Yeah, exactly. And this ties into that thing where I think they're trying to fix this in Windows as part of the Proton announcement, which is that with UAC, you got this prompt that appeared over everything else on the screen. So it was kind of like an overlay. I mean, it's still there, but I mean, when it first appeared, it was kind of a new thing. Like it wasn't just a dialogue, like it took over the screen and you had to address it. I sort of, at the time, this is 20 years ago now, but I sort of equated it to like the third middle brake light on a car. It's like another, actually please see it, deal with it. In administrative protection, they don't use that kind of a prompt. They actually use a Windows Hello sequence of authentication. So if you have facial or finger or whatever you're using, you'll have to deal with that. And that's the one where I said, and then you have to click OK at the end or whatever the button is. And there's that additional step. And it's gonna come up a lot if you enable it. It's going to be really disruptive. You're going to hate it. And most people are probably going to turn it off. And so we'll see what happens here. But they're reintroducing it. And I think one of the promises, he didn't say this explicitly, but I believe one of the promises Proton was making was, because he talked generally, we're going to improve I think he described it as performance or speed or whatever of Windows Hello. I think that's what he's referring to, because it's a big problem. Like I had enabled this, whatever it was 6 months ago, and I was like, man, people are not going to like this. Like it's pretty bad. Yeah. But they're bringing it back. I saw this and I thought to myself, oh my God, they're fixing the problem. I brought this up on Windows Weekly like 3-4 weeks ago. You have a touchpad. You do a double finger, to right click. and it registers as a single click, like a primary click, however you want to identify that. And that drives me insane. And as these trackpads are getting bigger and bigger, and I've used bigger laptops, you have to really move over to the far left for this to work the way you expect it to work. And this is a problem I've had lately a lot. And so I saw that like we're going to change the right click zone size. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing it. And like, no, they're actually going to make it easier to right click like using a single click. In other words, like by default, the way the trackpad is set up in Windows is like the 20 or 25% over on the right. If you just single click over there, that's a right click, not a primary click.
Right.
And they're going to let you make that bigger. It's like, no, I don't want it to be bigger. I want it to go away.
Is that
and I
help?
want, what's that?
Because that helps.
I don't know. It might literally be related to the thing I was talking about, which is that these trackpads are getting bigger and bigger, right? And so it might be harder for people who are used to doing it with a single finger. It might be getting harder to hit over to that far edge because it's so far over. And so some people might want to make that bigger, and that's great. But I also want to feel it's like two clicks, two fingers is always right click, no matter where it is on the trackpad. Could you add that feature, please? That's not a feature. I don't know why that's not a feature. It works on the Mac. I don't know. And then there's some NPU stuff going on with Task Manager, which is kind of interesting. So across different pages in Task Manager, you can enable new columns for things like NPU engine, NPU dedicated memory, NPU shared memory, et cetera. So they're going to give more visibility into that stuff. Presumably for developers who are creating local AI apps. I can't imagine a normal user would ever need to know that, because if your NPU is getting hammered, it shouldn't affect anything, right? Other than maybe the action that's trying to. It's fine. Yeah. Okay. That's mostly it. So nothing.
Everything's fine.
Dramatic, but yeah.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I always think of Microsoft as the the Combine in the beginning of Half-Life 2, where the guy kicks the can and makes you pick it up. It's like they have the announcements in the background. It's like everything's fine, move along. There's nothing to say. Everything's fine. We expect your obedience as a citizen.
It's your compliance.
Exactly. We rely on your compliance. That's how dictatorships work. Yeah. And then last week, and I think the week before, there were new Intel processor announcements, and then AMD had just announced this out of the blue. I love the way AMD announces things, because it's actually a year and a half ago now, they both announced the major new generation of chips at the same time. It was at IFA, so that would have been 2024, if you can believe that. And then Intel didn't do anything for like a year, but then AMD in January was like, we have new chips, and they're still pretty much on Zen 5, across the board. But Intel just did their new desktop chips and mobile chips, and now so there's been some debate like, is the new desktop chip the best for gaming? And Intel says it's their best chip for gaming, but most of the reviews I've seen have said actually whatever the highest end Ryzen 9 is still better, for that kind of thing. And they were like, yeah, it's not good enough. We're going to have a new one. And so they announced a new version of I think there's two. There's probably a Ryzen 9. I got to figure out there's two models, but basically what they're doing is doubling the cache, and they're doing it in 3D, so to speak. So it's not spread out on the chip die. It's going up like a skyscraper, I guess.
Yeah, it's not that unusual.
Yeah, no, Intel does something like this too.
Yeah, need to. Yeah,
so it's like a 3D V cache is what they're calling it. And it's now
the innovation is they're doing it with the cache.
Yes, right. 208 megabytes of anything does not sound like a lot to me. That sounds like the size of an MP3 file, but apparently for the cache on a processor, that's humongous.
Yeah,
and it's
you're loading
like the biggest
registers, right? It doesn't need to be that big.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting.
And the whole point here is that the processor loop is faster than the memory transfer loop. So you're pulling from the memory and loading into the cache for the processor to execute it. You're trying to stay ahead of the cache demands.
I love that this stuff has become so sophisticated that distance matters, and in distance we're measuring now in like nanometers, right?
Well, it's bus speeds.
Yeah, right. Yes, that too. Right, and so So if you have RAM off to the side, it's on the motherboard over here, separate. However, whatever technology, whatever speed it is, whatever the bus
is. Too many hoops for what the CPU wants.
Yeah, it's always going to be slower. Yeah. I mean, not
comparatively
slow.
speaking. The processor's crazy fast, right? Like it's just nuts how fast processors are.
Right. So when you, I mean, I feel like, we can pretty much credit Apple with this in the sense that, like just like they didn't invent the GUI or anything, but they kind of took it mainstream, if you will. I feel like Apple did this with Apple Silicon and chip design, where understanding the trade-offs, because, from the mass market kind of PC point of view, you're like, well, we could have RAM, we have these DIMM slots, we can change RAM, we can add RAM, we can do whatever we want. We have like storage, we can do the same thing, blah, blah, it's modular.
Yeah. It's all going to be one module and you're going to like it.
Yeah. But the point being, like, yes, we hear you. We agree, we know, we get it, but you will sacrifice that expansion capability or upgradability, whatever you want to call it, by incorporating this stuff on the chip itself. And you buy what you're always going to have. You're not going to ever upgrade it, but it's super fast, Yeah. And I feel like everyone who makes chips knows that this is the case, and just no one ever really, in a mainstream way anyway, was like, yeah, we're not doing that. It makes sense on mobile because mobile devices are so small and that space really matters.
Yep.
And Apple was like, somebody into computers, and it's, it's kind of interesting. Like,
but it also simplifies the supply chain somewhat. Like there's a bunch of benefits to that. But let's face it, when Cook got his M series processors built with everything integrated, it changed the game again. The Air changed the game and forced the Ultrabook into existence. And the M series has done it even more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And right. I mean, so the nice thing in the PC space is we can still take advantage of this stuff because we copy everything Apple does. But now we have multiple providers and all the choices and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. And so even in something like Snapdragon X2, which, by the way, inexplicably still not here, there's a high-end version of that chip, and probably a couple, I guess, that incorporates the RAM directly. Even though, the RAM is not upgradable, it's on the board, but it's actually incorporating it into the die of the CPU to enhance performance. And, so people who buy those laptops later this year will benefit from this kind of thinking as well, but in the PC space. So.
Unified RAM, they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, unified, because that's a better marketing term than non-upgradable, and non-user serviceable.
Well, yeah, and actually AMD does that with some of their Ryzen chips.
That's right. Yeah, the Zen 5 chips do that, the mobile ones.
Well, then you get to skip over the standardized interface, the NVMe and things like that. It's still the same actual RAM chip, like
still DDR5. It's just in the die. That's all.
Just
that's right.
Up close and with a simplified bus because it's only for RAM.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Intel did that with Lunar Lake, and then 2 seconds later said, "Yeah, we're never doing that again."
Yeah. I suspect a bunch of their, Intel came from RAM. That was their original product. So I think they.
Yeah, and this is there's just too much expectation in this space for this kind of upgradability, especially on a desktop. Obviously, right? Apple just canceled the Mac Pro. That architecture that they made with Apple Silicon doesn't make a lot of sense. For they had PCIe whatever version, and you could have add-in cards, but not for graphics.
Right.
Not like, and it's like, well, that's what most people use that for.
Well, actually, now with the Thunderbolt 5, you can do eGPU.
There you go.
So that's probably.
I'm actually surprised eGPU has not been bigger. They had a
period of time. Apple has to provide the drivers. That's the problem.
I mean, just mean in general, instead of having
5, you have the bus. You have enough.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even Thunderbolt 4, depending, back in the, a couple of years ago. But things should change.
Take a little break and come back with more Windows Weekly. We are brought to you today by somebody we know well, ThreatLocker. Actually, they've got some announcements. It's very cool. ThreatLocker's zero trust platform, we've talked about this before, now delivers the industry's most comprehensive suite of zero trust solutions, protecting endpoints, but also networks and the cloud. By extending zero trust enforcement to cloud services and company networks, this is huge. ThreatLocker ensures that, okay, you got the endpoint protection, but now it ensures that devices are validated through a secure broker before they connect to platforms like Salesforce or Microsoft 365 or Asana or Google Workspace or GitHub. So, the end result, even if a user is successfully phished and the laptop's compromised, attackers cannot access resources. They'd actually have to have physical possession of the user's trusted device. And of course, if you're using, biometric authentication, things like that, that's not going to help them either. It's really a great way to lock this all down. Works across, what's nice about ThreatLocker, works across all industries, PCs and Macs and Linux, 24/7 US-based support. And of course, it's almost a side effect, but it's a great side effect of this. You get comprehensive visibility and control, because if something can't act unless it's authenticated, you know who did what when exactly at all times. Actually, I had a great conversation with their ThreatLocker's chief product officer. And he was telling me, and this is really cool, that when they'll go in and do a demo, and you should try this in your enterprise and try it, they just put it on one thing and see how many endpoints are accessing that thing. You, in almost all cases, especially as the enterprise gets bigger, you're going to have, access credentials for remote access that you forgot about. He was telling me about one customer who discovered that they had something like 8 or 9 remote access tools all at once that they didn't even know about. So ThreatLocker gives you, it's a great diagnostic for who's accessing what where. It's just another nice benefit to this whole system. Rob Thackeray is the end user technical architect at Heathrow Airport. Now, Heathrow has had problems in the distant past. They cannot afford to go down. That is a busy airport. They use ThreatLocker. He said this: ThreatLocker was the most intuitive solution we tested. And the responsiveness of the organization, the willingness to engage with us, to set up a demo, and to work with us on weekly audit reviews was very good. It's great to have an ongoing relationship with a company that's so responsive to our requests. That's the quote. And I think that's a great testament to the amazing benefits of ThreatLocker. It's trusted by companies that just can't afford to go down, even for one moment. JetBlue, for instance, the Indianapolis Colts, the Port of Vancouver. These Heathrow Airport. These are people who it's mission critical. And there's such benefit to this. ThreatLocker receives consistently high honors and industry recognition. PeerSpot ranked #1 in application control. GetApp's Best Functionality and Features Award in 2025. You can confidently ensure users have access to a consistent, safe network connection. Offices, remote users, internal servers, critical services can maintain smooth operations without the need to open inbound ports or deploy traditional VPN solutions. Your end users get the secure, reliable internal system access they need without complex infrastructure changes and without the risk. Get unprecedented protection quickly, easily, and cost-effectively with ThreatLocker. And by the way, if you want to see that conversation I had with Rob Allen, their chief product officer, that is in our RSEC thing. We put it up at youtube.com/twit. He was great. He's fantastic and had a lot of interesting things to say. Visit threatlocker.com/twit to get a free 30-day trial and learn more about how ThreatLocker can help mitigate unknown threats and ensure compliance. That's threatlocker.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support. They've been a great partner for us at Windows Weekly. On we go with the programming. Let's talk about AI.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Hot minute.
So everybody, I think, knows that Microsoft went to market. Microsoft kicked off this kind of AI era by capitalizing on ChatGPT. Was it 4 at the time or 3.5? I think it was 4, but
yeah, it was 3.
Whichever 3. Okay.
ChatGPT November 22.
Yeah, and they released approximately 117 different products and services with the word Copilot in the name. Most of which
25, but okay.
Okay. Sorry.
200 plus internally.
Sometimes I exaggerate to make a point, but but all of it based on OpenAI technology, right?
Yeah.
Then late last year, they added optional or alternative support, if you will, inside of kind of a limited range of things inside of Copilot for Anthropic cloud models, right? Which is kind of interesting, right? And there's a lot going on there. Microsoft obviously is also working on its own models. I think that there is a future where Microsoft and I guess Apple will maybe do something similar where you'll have your choice of models. And I don't think that's a choice a normal human should ever have to make. But
that's the whole Foundry product, right? Like every model you could imagine is available in Foundry.
Oh, in Foundry. But I mean, like literally in Copilot, if you wanted to do like a research type thing, you could say that I want to use cloud for this. For some reason, I feel like this is the thing the OS should be, or the product in this case should be orchestrating for you. But okay, whatever.
I mean, the other way to phrase this is Apple would never do this.
Apple is going to do this, by the way. So we're going to talk about that in a second.
But you talk about the problem that these underlying brands are brands, and people have opinions about them, whether they're qualified or not.
Yes, to me, a real orchestrator and the real power of this multi-model kind of capability would be that it does it for you and does it for you so that it chooses the best choice every time, right? Mm-hmm. Not I have this adherence to whatever brand or, look, if you're paying for it, I mean, that you can make that case and that's part of what Apple is going to do. But they just did something, and this is still not broadly available, but there's an AI agent feature, or an AI agent, I should say, called Researcher, Microsoft Researcher, built into Copilot. And it is getting a new feature called Critique that will actually use ChatGPT and Cloud together to improve the quality of responses. Like, it's going to do that automatically. You don't have to choose that. Like, it will just do it.
This is a good idea, right? Like,
yeah, this is a really good idea. This is orchestration.
Tokens, it's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So that's actually really interesting. And they're doing it for quality, I would say accuracy, right? Which is what we're looking for in AI. So, we'll see how that turns out. But it's as time goes on, you see the rift between OpenAI and Microsoft kind of growing and growing. And that hole in the middle will be filled by other companies like Anthropic, but also by Microsoft's own Microsoft AI models over time. We'll see. But
yeah, I keep feeling like the model's just not going to matter that much. The tooling is more important around it. But then you start seeing some results and going, okay, well, this model's probably compelling. Although then you talk about the problem with these learning models is they're really good at tests and not really good at work.
I think we're also just in that phase where it's happening in real time. And so we will look back and think how quaint that we could ever go to a box and pick from a list and say, that's the one I want.
Like we were qualified to choose.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just doing my own research, Richard. What's your problem? Yes, exactly. Yes, you noted researcher. Yes, thank you for doing that. So I'm not going to go through all this Siri stuff because Jesus, but I will say Siri is in the news every second or third day now.
Which is crazy.
Almost 2 years ago, Apple showed they were going to make this conversational
live video.
Yep, have never delivered on it.
I just love. Deep in my heart, I'm just happy they blinked, that they actually panicked and made a FUD video, because they've been so confident in the consumer space for so long, but apparently AI scared them.
If you use an iPhone, you may be familiar with the notion that you can configure OpenAI ChatGPT as a kind of a handoff for Siri. Yeah. So if you ask Siri a complicated question like, what's the weather right now where I live, and it can't handle it, it will push it off to ChatGPT, right? Which shouldn't be able to handle that one either, actually, but whatever. And in the next version of iOS and these other platforms, they're going to have an extensions API where any third-party AI can plug into this. And I think this might be Apple's real end game, other than actually shipping a Siri something that makes sense. is going to be
internally. Clearly, this whole Siri product needed a full rehab. We've seen the gory details of the various teams that are trying to control Siri killing each other. Very anomalous for Apple.
Siri's tough because it was first, right? It was the first of these kind of
and it was a bot product, which is also relatively rare for Apple, right? That's Stanford Research Institute.
And then they just kind of sat on it, and whether that's bit them in the behind or whatever, I don't know. But I think they didn't merge the cultures well, and it was literally living on its own and thought it was all out in the bag of chips until suddenly it wasn't. Yeah. They had to know Google was going to do this, for starters, right? Mm-hmm. Amazon did it, Microsoft did it, and then didn't do it, and now is doing it again. But
they had to know that Apple pays any attention to so-called competition. Like they're not. They just don't present themselves as those people. They know better than their customers. You are holding it wrong.
Yeah, but they are paying attention. That's the thing. They really are, right? So look, like I said, I don't necessarily care too much about Siri or what Apple is doing with Siri, but it did occur to me because I write about technology and I focus on Microsoft and Windows, and I can think of these like dark times, in the past where times were tough. Like I remember when the first Microsoft, the big U.S. antitrust trial was going on. We had the Bill Gates deposition and all that stuff. And I was just like, I don't know about this anymore. Like, I just don't know, that was a rough time, but the modern rough time, the AI stuff, obviously, but right before AI kicked in remember Microsoft for about 3 to 6 months was going to buy TikTok. And we had to deal with news about TikTok and Microsoft's involvement with TikTok and how maybe this thing could be spread out with different companies, and part of it would be in China and part would be in the US, and someone would blah, 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 blah. And the whole time I kept thinking to myself, I don't want to write about this. Like I couldn't, the things I care less about than TikTok is a small list. Like, Sheryl Sandberg's on the list. I'm trying to think, like, there's not much on that list. And I just do not care.
TikTok Community Presentation Foundation, SR1. Like, then it'll be great.
So I was so excited when it didn't happen, And I got to think, if I were an Apple guy instead, like if I had focused on Apple and that was my beat or whatever,
right?
This Siri thing, this is the worst year of your life.
Oh God, yes.
Oh, totally 2 years, right?
It's a great comparison.
It's just going on and on and on about like, you could stand in the rain and ask it what the weather is, and Siri will not get it right. But now Siri's going to have multimodal conversations. It's going to extend into other AIs. It's going to be able to do multiple things. Sure it is. And so the Germans are going to come up with some super weapon that's going to end World War II. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's insanity. And I look, I guess it's important. I mean, it's important to some people. I have written about Siri lately. I hate myself for it, but someday, and that day will probably be in September, and then there'll be improvements throughout the next 6 months. They will actually ship this thing finally. It will be 2 to 2.5 years later than they promised, and it will happen. And let me tell you, I feel very strongly that when that happens, it's not going to matter in the slightest.
No.
That this is for Apple, this great white whale situation where you can't not do it now.
Yep.
You have to do it.
Yep.
And when you do it, it's like moving the taskbar to the top of the screen because 3 people asked for this. They'll do it, and they'll hate themselves when they're done doing it because no one's going to use this thing. It's just going to be a complete freaking waste of time.
Yeah. And it speaks to this, the bubble of confidence wasn't worth it if you just not blinked and said, hey, we're just going to sit back and take a good long look at this and see where it's going.
Yeah. And what we decided was, who cares?
Yeah.
I don't know. I look, I know there's a grandmother somewhere sitting barking at like a little smart speaker in a kitchen looking for it to tell jokes or tell it the news or whatever the heck it is that people do with these things, the weather. But come on. I mean, like, come on. I just, whatever.
I feel for them. Suddenly they are much more mortal,
Oh my God. Yeah. It's
and the fact that their dirty laundry has been public, which Apple was so good at not doing.
I know they get so much right too.
And never fight.
Yeah.
It's just a purse fight over Siri.
Here's the good news I will throw out for anyone who covers Apple for a living and writes about Apple and has to keep writing articles about how everything they do is so perfect and wonderful and great. And the narrative is going to be, it turns out Apple had the right strategy after all. They sat on this. They waited. They didn't spend tens or hundreds of billions of dollars on AI infrastructure. They were right. And it's like, guys, they tried.
They tried
and
so
they
hard.
failed. Like I know you're going to turn this into an Apple victory, but
I mean, I do presume that Gruber will tell the best story of this eventually.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah. No, Apple won by losing. Of course, sure they did.
I don't think Gruber's that much of a sycophant, but
a lot of them are. I mean, a lot of them are.
Many of the normals are. That's why I go read John, because he has some faith. He has some proportionality around what Apple does.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay. And then beyond this, we have, so it was actually a lot of AI news. I culled this down because, dear God, who cares? But if you don't have to be too old to remember the Mac. I'm a PC ads that Apple used to have. You probably are familiar with the notion that today iPhone and Android are vying for, supremacy in the mobile space and pretty much splitting the market. So we've had this concept of switchers for a long time. Apple wanted to get PC switchers in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, whatever. Android and iOS both now have tools that help you migrate from one platform to the other. People are, or companies that own these platforms are always trying to get people to switch. So it is perhaps not surprising that this has now moved on to AI, right? And so Google, I believe, was the first, at least certainly the first of the big guys, to kind of formally come out and be like, look, we have a page now for switching. You're on any other AI. You can export. We're going to tell you how to export your memories, right? Which is the sticky part of AI, if that makes sense. And then your chat history, which I guess actually is also a part of the stickiness. And then import them into Gemini. All AIs can basically do this, by the way. But it's just interesting that one of the kind of veterans of this kind of personal computing switching phenomena is kind of boldly going after this exact same thing, but with AI. The idea is like, maybe ChatGPT isn't doing what you want anymore. Well, guess what? We have this thing.
They are such the whipping boy right now.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Well, you fly too close to the sun.
They have been the brand for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Literally, they become the Xerox, the technology with their product name.
That's absolutely true. And it's amazing when any brand can do that. But, they're also ostensibly an American company. And if there's anything America loves more than success, it's failure. And
that's an interesting point of view.
No, it is. I mean, I used to like that band before they got popular,
That's it.
Like, okay. Like whatever, people start to hate things when they get too popular.
It's kind of nobody goes there anymore. It's too busy.
It's kind of it's a weird, right. I don't want to be part of any club that would let me be a member. Yogi Berra, I think. But so ChatGPT, I think, is heading, or OpenAI, I should say, is kind of heading for a fall. I'm not going to get these numbers right. I'm not a financial guy, and this is not really my space, but I did see this little blurb this morning where, through funding and whatever, their valuation right now is almost $1 trillion. It's 852 billion, I think was the number. And part of the story was like, this company generates, and this is run rate revenue, not real revenue, but we'll call it revenues of $2 billion a quarter.
Right.
Which if you follow Microsoft, Google, Apple, whatever, you'll know is a tiny percentage of their revenues every quarter, right? Sure. Apple generates, I think, over $100 billion in profit every year. I mean, right. So that would be 25-ish billion. It's astonishing. The company that makes a mouse that you plug in through its butthole somehow is worth $4 trillion, whatever. Okay.
Well, when you put it that way, yeah.
I know it doesn't make sense, but anyway, there's in the financial world, there's this notion of like earnings per share, earnings. There's different ways of looking at how successful companies can be, and I feel like the $2 billion in revenues versus 852 billion in value is got to be the biggest stretch in the history of valuation in mankind's history. Like, I just feel like this thing is it's weird to me. Like, did you really think that putting ads in ChatGPT or selling $20 a month pro subscriptions, that was going to put you guys over the top? Like that you were suddenly going to be a Google, a Microsoft, and Apple? Like, I mean, really? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, to Richard's point, I mean, I think they're on the cusp of like one of the biggest collapses in literally history. I mean, as far as companies go.
Yeah, well,
we'll see.
One needs a harbinger to propagate a collapse. They kicked this one off. The least they could do is take us down with it.
Yeah. I'm reading a book about Berlin during World War II right now, which has some interesting resonance with modern day America. But and I've read a lot of books like this, of course. But I'm really into history and especially World War II history. But I see these kind of weird parallels between that time period and some of these companies where it's like, how are you going to win? Well, you just have that German spirit. It's going to happen. It's like you can literally see the Soviets from your house. Like, how are you going to win?
Oh, you're reading it. You're reading The Fall of Berlin.
No. That's an older one. I'm reading. It's called Stay Alive. It's a new book.
Interesting.
Which is it's fantastic. Anyhow, OpenAI. I don't know. I just don't know.
We keep asking whether they're Netscape or Google, and they're looking very Netscapey these days.
That's
an interesting point. They just made I just read an opinion column in Bloomberg is that SpaceX is about to go public IPO. That's one way to raise money. But when you have 1 billion users, you can go to the private capital markets and raise, as OpenAI just did, $122 billion. You don't need to go public.
Yep.
Right.
I
mean, at some point you kind of have to go public, right? I mean, there is a point where you do have to go public.
$122 billion is
it's not just the money, it's the shareholders, right?
They are, I believe,
Google was forced to go public because their shareholder count got too high in the SEC report.
They were
that's interesting.
I think the third of their current size when they were at that time the biggest privately funded company in history.
So I didn't think about that, but there are legal rules at some point where you have to go.
Yeah, you do have to at some point.
Shareholder market, you are now a public company whether you want.
I imagine the number of investors in OpenAI is fairly
still small, but
how many people have
shareholders
billions?
too?
Well, that's true. Yeah, you got to give it to your employees.
I mean, the former supporters of
that's what got Google. That's right.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein's gone. The money's got to go somewhere. I'm just,
jeez, Louise,
just saying. Let me know if
let's just take a break so you can absorb and think about all we've learned here. We're coming up on the Xbox segment. I did end up buying that Switch 2.
Oh, you did?
I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much better that screen would be. It's not just bigger; it's beautiful.
Interesting. And I think there was some big software update that this went out that I guess improves the performance of original Switch games.
Yeah, they have a DLSS in there, and it's really
interesting.
Fun. Yeah.
Do you like the how do you like the controllers and all that stuff?
It's
Is that
fine.
okay? Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not like you. I'm not a professional gamer, so I don't. But
we'll let that one just hang.
I had to think about that one.
But no, seriously, it's Xbox, PS5. It's not those
teabag E. Maybe
it's not those. I don't know if they have the joystick drift that was a problem earlier. I haven't experienced that, but it's brand new, so I don't know. But it seems fine. Give it time, right? It seems fine, and you can always cast it to your TV with HDMI, and then I guess you could use other.
Well, you can dock it too. They could just plug it.
That's what I mean. Have it in the dock.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
it comes with a dock.
Yeah, that's good.
But I was just impressed. I bought it because I thought, well, maybe for vacation it'd be nice to take something I'm not going to be.
I always like, the idea of pulling that thing, because you could watch a movie, you could listen to a podcast or something. You could be like play a game,
Yeah, it looks and not really doing good.
Yeah, and on a dedicated device is kind of nice for that kind of thing because you're not taking data from the laptop you have to do work on or whatever it might be.
And the Steam Deck was not only pricier, but I think the screen is not as big. This is an OLED. It's a nice screen.
Steam Deck is in desperate need of a new version.
Sorry, what?
You're making Gabe sad.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gabe. I love you, Gabe.
Somewhere out on his luxury yacht in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, wherever he is. Probably eating baby seals for breakfast or whatever he does.
But I'm grateful to Gabe because he's made Linux gaming a reality. So thank you for that, Gabe. I do appreciate that. But a dedicated game machine, there are certain advantages to that, and I like the idea of just a little thing I can carry around. And
yeah.
We should make an Xbox one of those. Face, it's just like a Vision Pro.
Nice.
Nice. You just strap
I'm gonna strap it. Strap it onto my face. Yeah. Our show today brought to you by, this is actually, in all seriousness, very important these days, DeleteMe. We in this country do not have comprehensive privacy protection. In fact, the federal government has pretty much not only avoided it, but attempted to negate all state laws as well. Because why should we have privacy? How dare I? How dare I try to keep my personal information private? And the good news is here in the United States, we have this industry called data brokers. And they do all the hard work, all the heavy lifting of collecting your personal information, aggregating it from hundreds, thousands of sources, and then just making it bundle it up, make it a simple, easy, inexpensive purchase for anybody who comes along. That includes, of course, bad guys, marketers, includes governments, law enforcement, anybody, nations, states. If you've ever wondered how much of your personal data is out there on the internet, you wonder no more because, well, I think you probably know. It's not just your name, your contact info. It's your social security number. There is no law in the United States that prevents a company from selling your social security number for $1.50 to anybody who comes along. Your home address, even information about your family members, your employees. This is a really important protection that businesses need. We learned that when we started getting phishing emails, and they knew everything. Well, we thought, how could they know? Our structure, our employees' phone numbers, the names of direct reports. Well, because it's all there in the data brokers, and they're constantly making new dossiers for you. Anybody on the web can buy this stuff, and you can think of the hazards: identity theft, sure; phishing, yes; doxing, harassment. There is a way to protect your privacy. It's what we ended up doing, and I recommend it's DeleteMe. I highly recommend you use DeleteMe, especially if you're a business, you should have it for your middle managers, all your management, so that they are not suddenly the source of phishing attacks, right? I mean, I can go on and on. You don't want this stuff out there. DeleteMe is so smart. There's a subscription service. I'll tell you why that's important in a second. By law, the good news is data brokers are required to have a page somewhere hidden within their site that says, please remove me. But you'd have to go onesie, twosie. You have to find that page. There's new data brokers every single day. There's hundreds of them out there right now. DeleteMe's experts, they keep up on this. This is a full-time job. You don't want to do it. You want DeleteMe to do it. You sign up. You give DeleteMe exactly the information you want deleted and let them take it from there. They send you regular personalized privacy reports. We found this really valuable. It shows what info they've found, which is kind of a shocker, where they found it, and what they removed. So you know exactly what they're doing. And this is why it has to be a subscription. It's not a one-time service because these data brokers, even after you remove the data, just start repopulating your dossier. And there's new ones all the time. And they're slimy. Sometimes what they do, they change their name. Oh, we're a different company now. This happens a lot. It's shocking. DeleteMe is always working for you. They're on our side. Thank goodness they exist, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want online. To put it simply, DeleteMe does all the hard work of wiping you, your family, your business's personal information from data broker websites. But I want to underscore this. The name DeleteMe is not unique. There's a European company that has the same name. And I got an email from somebody who said, this doesn't do what you said. They are a GDPR takedown company. It's not the same thing. You have to go to the American company because it's an American problem. I hate to say it. Join DeleteMe.com/twit. You need to take control of your data. You need everybody to keep your private life private. Sign up for DeleteMe right now. Special discount for our listeners. Today, you'll get 20% off your individual DeleteMe plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/twit and use the promo code TWIT at checkout. That's the only way to get 20% off. Go to joindeleteme.com/twit, the offer code TWIT. Use that at checkout. One word, joindeleteme.com/twit, offer code TWIT. This is worth getting right. It really is. This is so important. Everybody ought to do this. Joindeleteme.com/twit. And the offer code is TWIT. And thank goodness they exist. That's all I can say. Okay. I've done and I'm going to make this a regular segment on the show. Nintendo Switch 2 gaming segment.
There you go.
What are you playing?
Yesterday, Christina Warren, I only have the one game. I bought the Mario Kart World that came with it.
Yeah,
sure.
They're so expensive, these games.
I
They're
know.
$80.
And they're going to, and if you buy them physical, they're going to get more expensive.
So Christina Warren said, I said, what should I get? She said, Pokopia. You like Pokemon? It's the best of Pokemon. So now that's my new one. But there's other, there's no Call of Duty, Paul, as you mentioned.
I know. I want there to be more adult games. I mean,
there's Resident Evil. There are a few.
Oh, there is Resident Evil. Okay.
Yeah.
There
are a few, first-person shooter games. There's one I'm really interested in. It has a weird name, Hyren, that everybody's raving about too. Where, I mean, there's some really interesting, this is a kind of a Dark Souls type of.
Yeah. There must be like a modern, Metroid title on Switch.
There are a lot of Metroidvania. Oh, there's a lot of Metroid stuff. Yeah. If you like that.
But, I also feel like Switch is a good opportunity to go back to some of those kind of sideways scrollers.
Yes.
It's probably really good at that kind of thing.
There's some really good ones.
All the time. Yeah.
Gorilla Bonanza.
It's like between like
Banananza.
It's like a AAA Call of Duty type game on one end of the spectrum, and then there's the kind of super casual, mobile whatever game that you play in line at the supermarket. But I feel like Switch could be right in the middle, and that there's a pretty wide space there for.
Well, and I wasn't.
variety.
I thought, this is going to be kind of kiddie, right? But I know they have some pretty good strategy games and stuff, and of course, there's always the Zelda stuff, which everybody.
Can you install games on like an SD card type thing and not have to worry about internal?
You have a compact flash or a TF card, right? The little mini one. Okay. You have to buy a super fast one. You have to buy one of the modern ones.
Yeah, of course.
I put a 256 gig in there, so there's plenty of space. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I have a lot of games.
Small to have more than one, you're just going to lose them.
Hey, listen, sometime in the next 24 hours, season 3 of the current Call of Duty is going to go out, and I'm looking forward to a 60 to 125 gigabyte download on.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God.
I bet you don't deal with that on the Switch.
Micro SD, with a terabyte. Like, I don't need a terabyte lost up my nose. That's too much storage.
And the other thing is, I feel guilty about playing games.
Why? Do you feel guilty about reading? I mean,
no, I don't. But games seem. I get okay. That's an interesting.
Come on, man.
I don't feel guilty about watching movies.
You could veg out in front of a screen and watch a movie, or you could interact with something. I mean, at least you're doing something for your brain.
Cyberpunk, by the way, is supposed to be pretty good on it. The 2077.
Yeah, wow. There you go.
There's another that might be in my list at some point.
The funny thing about the Cyberpunk games, not only is it wildly fun, it's got a really deep story to it. Like, it's quite emotional. And
I kind of like that with works well with a portable device, because you're really kind of engaged in it. You don't have to go to the couch to sit down. You're kind of
it's almost as hard to punch as how Last of Us ends, right? Like there's
Hades. Hades 2 is supposed to be very good. I have that from the old days. I don't know. There's a whole Yakuza series that's pretty violent. I know you're looking to kill things.
I know that's big in your world, Paul.
I know you like that.
If it doesn't end in the death of something,
steam.
What's the point?
The best, honestly, part of the reason is the best game right now is Claude Code. It's a really fun game.
Is that, do you buy that on a cartridge for the Switch too, or how does that work?
You buy that with tokens, and those tokens can add up fast.
Yep.
Interesting.
Anyway, I'm sorry. This is the Xbox gaming segment.
Actually, I have a couple more things to get to from the AI thing, if you don't mind.
Oh, I thought we were done. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Firefox or Mozilla has made a bunch of announcements lately about how they're going to handle AI in Firefox, and
I like they're just taking a different position than everyone else. Like, happy.
I maybe I'm not saying this right, but I feel like they're taking the right position, but also the correct position, right?
Interesting.
Because on the one end, they have. You have these absolutists, like the big platform companies like Google and Microsoft that are jamming AI down everyone's throats, and there's been pushback to that, if you didn't notice. And then there's companies like Vivaldi, which is a small company, but they're like, we're just not doing it. If you want to do AI, you have your own thing.
There's other place to go. Yeah.
The Mozilla stance, which is in the middle there, of course, is we're not an AI company, right? You don't have to worry about the intent of what it is we're doing, but we're going to give you the option, And they offered me a chance, and me and this guy has probably, I think, spent the past 2 months just talking to every tech journalist or blogger on earth. But the guy who runs Firefox, Ajit Varma, I spoke to him last Friday, and I have to say, I really like where he's coming from and where the company's coming from. And I was joking with him. I said, when you guys announced the AI kill switch, I was like, kind of looking forward to a switch, with a little fire burn button or something. And he's like, and he goes, yeah, I know, I pushed for that, but apparently we have lawyers, and so I guess they weren't able, but they're taking a very pragmatic approach to AI, and among the things that they're doing that I think makes sense are they do have that AI controls section in Firefox settings where you can just turn it all off, right? One switch, all off. But there's also this is something we've talked about, right? Where AI is he's described it as an overloaded term. I almost feel like it's a compromised brand. Like some people have such a visceral negative reaction to the term AI. They stop thinking clearly and stop listening, And on this show, I know I've said at one point or another something like, well, what if we call this feature technology? Would it have the same impact? And it's like, yeah, no, probably wouldn't, right? But in the case of Firefox, they can see that, a lot of their users want to turn the stuff off, but they also rely on certain features that, objectively are AI, like language translation, right? And so what they did was they top loaded this interface so that you can be like, I want all the AI off, but the first one you can turn on is translation, right? And then they go down the list from there. And these are kind of interesting things and I did not realize this, although it kind of does say this in the UI. When you download a language for the translation of thing to work, it can work offline. It's literally downloading a model that Firefox uses on your PC. It doesn't download that unless you ask for it, right? And it tells you it's going to, you can see you're going to download something. But again, it puts the choice into users' hands, and this, he never said Apple, Microsoft, Google, or anything like that. But, one of the comments he had made to me was that he said, we don't do dark patterns, like, oh, I know a company that uses dark patterns. That's interesting. And we talked about why people hate AI and blah, blah, blah. And this will be interesting, I think, to you guys, Leo and Richard especially, but people listening to the show as well, because we talk about Rust a lot, and he says one of the problems they see, because they have MDN, right? This is the Mozilla Developer Network, which is an awesome resource for web technology, for developers, web tech for developers. They get submissions, right? Like everyone, like anything like this. And they can always tell, like, when it's AI, because the solution to every coding problem when your AI is Rust. And he's like, look, I'm not saying Rust is great. He's like, that's not the thing. But he's like, one of the problems with AI is that you get into a situation where it's an echo chamber, basically, where, it's always making the same recommendations. He brought up the fact that AI, or ChatGPT especially, I guess, tends to write with M dashes and semicolons a lot, which is not the way most people write. I write that way every day. Right. And it is not most people. It's freaking me out that people, no one, this has not happened yet, but someday someone's gonna be like, I can tell this was written in AI. Look at all those M dashes. I'm like, I've been doing this for 30 years. This is the way
I got there first. I'm what they modeled after.
Yeah, exactly right. They trained on me. I'm right. I'm right. I'm like the guy behind Skynet who had no idea.
There you go. I cannot tell you how many people send me AI generated podcast links, and it's like, this sounds like you. It's like, I have 3,000 episodes of podcasts, so it could sound like me.
You do have a good podcast voice.
Oddly enough, yes.
You might want to look into that. But there's no opportunity there. The one thing he did say to me that kind of ran contrary to my thinking to date, which was, when I think about Firefox, and they're losing share, and they're one of 3 rendering engines, right? Essentially, big rendering engines, right?
That's left.
And that's work for developers. I mean, I in some ways I've sort of thought, not in some ways, I'm sorry, and not sort of. I have literally said explicitly, maybe that's not the right place for a web browser maker to try to innovate. That's where we need standardization, and that you should be innovating in the UI, user experience, whatever. But, he sees Gecko, the rendering engine they have, as a big strength for them, and how they can push for this open web, open internet, and that it is the only independent major web rendering engine. And he says, when you look at these other like Chromium browsers, whatever they are, like Brave, Vivaldi, whatever, he's like, they all look the same. They all, a lot of them, not all of them, but the bigger ones, like when it's, Microsoft or Edge, Microsoft with Edge or Google with Chrome, they're using this as a way to, spam you with AI, with their AI, right?
Yep.
And their whole thing is like, look, you come here because you want choice. You come here because you want independence. You come here because you want it to do what you want, and you do get that choice. And okay, I can see it. I mean, it was an interesting conversation. Anyway, so if you're interested in this topic, I have a couple of articles you can read about that. And then just real quick, because this is just a fascinating outlier for me. We'll see if this ever goes anywhere. But someone within Apple created the Swift programming language as a kind of a replacement for Objective-C, which in my mind is hot garbage. Not Swift, Objective-C.
Yeah.
They ended up open sourcing it. So there's an organization, SwiftOrg, that is now responsible for releases of the Swift language. Apple has in-house things like Swift UI, which is their framework for creating apps that go across their platforms. But the language itself is open source. There are implementations like on Windows, for example. So when Arc came to Windows, and I think if the ever does come to Windows, it's actually Swift, is the code. But they started working on an Android SDK sometime last year. Mm-hmm. And they have just released the first version of that with the latest release of Swift, which is 6.3. And what this means is that if you're a mobile developer who, to date has had to either maintain different teams for different, Android, iOS versions of an app, or you use some kind of a cross-platform solution like a Flutter or React Native or whatever.
Yep.
This would allow those that are focusing on Swift because they are heavily into the iOS space or whatever to release versions of their apps more easily on Android as well.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
You got a strong Swift team, like you have to look at, can I come now use the SDKs to get over to Android?
Yeah. I'll say, that's interesting.
I'm always going to worry you're going to have a lesser experience. I mean, the nice thing about using something like Flutter is at least it's equally poor in the deployment on both platforms, right? So Flutter is what this is not the right, they don't call it this, but to me, that's a framework, right? And the underlying language is Dart. And Dart is ostensibly cross-platform. It is cross-platform, but no one's writing command line tools in Dart and Windows or something but I mean, you could. You started out trying to make that a JavaScript alternative, and then found a home with nobody cared about it till Flutter came along.
Yeah. So to me, Swift is to Flutter as is really to Dart, right? It's the language, and so that's good. Yeah. And then we'll see if there's some cross-platform framework or frameworks that maybe come up out of this or something, or some cross-porting tool where maybe you're targeting Swift UI on Apple's platforms and there's some transition or translation tool that will allow you to get that over to Jetpack or whatever it's called on Android, like something like that. So we'll see. I mean, but you have to do, these are the foundational steps that have to occur, and they just shipped the first version. It's pretty good.
So cool.
Yeah, good for them.
All right, Halo music.
Yes.
Xbox music.
Sorry, I should always wait to the Halo music before I now, when I play Halo, think the music's wrong. So that's, I guess, a success.
Right. You're like, why is this off? It almost sounds backwards. I don't know. So, I'm sorry. So the new head of Xbox, Asha Sharma, obviously entered our world with a lot of controversy. I feel like she's been doing the right thing, frankly, all along. She was responsible for them removing the "This is an Xbox" marketing campaign from the Xbox website,
right?
Which isn't the same as "we're not doing that thing," right? Which I think is the important part. But
stop putting it on the front page.
But impressions matter, and I think what she's trying to do here is, well, I mean, she said this explicitly. I'm sorry. She is trying to kind of press reset on the brand and have people that are fans feel good about it again. She said that, or a Microsoft spokesperson said that she retired the "This is an Xbox" slogan and marketing campaign because it didn't feel like Xbox. And but what does feel like Xbox apparently is Microsoft partnering with Fresca or whatever stupid soft drink thing they just partnered with, because that's what they do now. And it's like, seriously. But yes, I think they want to market more of the, frankly, it's the hardware platform, which I think is the weakest part of the whole thing. But I sort of get that. The problem is we are 1.5 to 2 years away from us getting a new console. So we have what we have. And what we have is actually pretty good, unless you care only about the console, in which case it's not that good. But I don't really think this is the end of, the capabilities that exist that cause This is an Xbox to be a thing are not going away.
No,
like they're still doing
to this. The ROG allies got to stay.
Yeah. So I think this is more about marketing and branding and things like that. But yes, I mean, anyway, the point here is,
it's not like This is an Xbox was a hit either.
It was amazing. Well, I don't. Yeah, right.
Like, it always seemed a bit on the desperation side, like nothing else is working. Let's do this.
I think, yeah. So
no money in hardware.
For enthusiasts, the reaction to this was negative, by and large. And then for the broader world at large, I have to say, I would guess it was just a non-event. Like, I don't think it resonated at all. I don't think it meant anything, I think what will matter to people maybe is, if you're a gamer anyway, you'll see an ad for some game you might want to play and it looks awesome. You're like, nice. And then it's going to run across PC, Xbox console, PlayStation, maybe Nintendo, and then probably mobile devices through the Xbox cloud streaming thing. You're like, oh, that's great. Like without saying, oh, and by the way, that, Android phone you have, that's an Xbox. You're like, well, I'm sorry. You lost me at the last one. What? What are you talking? It's an Android phone. What do you mean? Like, so yeah. Anyway, we'll see what comes.
Tell me what my Android phone is.
Yeah, exactly. This is not the right one. Did I? No, I did. I think I linked to the wrong thing or something here. So after last week's show, oh no, I got it right. Okay, I got it. I recovered. I think it was Thursday or Friday. They had, so back in January, they had an event like this, a partner preview event. They just did one Thursday, Friday, I forget which day. And basically this was a chance to show off. It was 19 upcoming games from third-party developers. Wow. 14 of which will be day one on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And you may remember, I kind of questioned this because the term or the name of the title came up last week, Super Meat Boy 3D. And I was like, wait a minute, is that a new game? It is a new game. So Super Meat Boy is one of the big indie games of the past 20 years. So this is apparently some kind of a follow-up, and that will be one of the titles that is coming day one on Game Pass. Expansions
all that money you spend on Ultimate. Or at least,
well, there is
people anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. Super Meat Boy 3D came out yesterday, by the way. And then some of the other stuff that's in here is most of this. The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, Alien Deathstorm, which is an awesome name. It's not on this list for some reason, but there's an expansion for the Stalker 2. That Ukrainian game, kind of a sci-fi dystopian shooter, whatever. Yeah. So Cost of Hope expansion is coming, et cetera, et cetera. So a bunch of stuff. So that's cool. And then on the heels of that, they announced the next event like this, which is tied to when E3 used to be, right? We don't do E3 anymore. But in early June 7, the day before WWDC, there's going to be the 2026 game showcase, which is the thing they used to do at E3, sorry. And also something called Gears of War E-Day Direct. And this will be promoting the next Gears of War game, and probably games, I would imagine, because I know there's I think it's a prequel actually, but a new game. And then I believe yet another remastering of the original Gears, I think, is also coming down the pike. But the next big set of announcements for new games will be when E3 used to be. So we'll pretend that that's still a thing, I guess, which is kind of fun. But Okay. And then in the bad news department, and this is something we see across the board. In fact, Raspberry Pi just today announced price increases of anywhere from 10 to 50%, depending on the product.
Sure.
Because of these component shortages. Sony announced
they're starting to do their pre-orders for the next wave and realizing how much it's going to be.
Raspberry Pi is an interesting organization because they want to keep the prices down. So they've said, look, this is a temporary condition. This will end someday. When it does, we will revert to our older prices or bring the prices down, which is nice. And they also introduced, this is not the current gen, but Raspberry Pi 4, I think previous was 1, 2, 4, and 8 gigabyte versions. They introduced a new 3 gigabyte versions to have something that's in the sub $100 range that might be, better than 2. You might have bought a 4 and 8 before if you can do more with less, so to speak.
Right.
They're trying to meet that need, which, I have to appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Sony announced that starting tomorrow, meaning if you're listening to this in the future, probably previously, but on April 2nd, they're going to increase the price of the PlayStation 5, for the same reason. And in the United States, it's going up. It's going up a lot, actually, from $549 to $649 for the base, the normal model with the drive. The Pro is going from $749 to $899. Ew. That Steam Machine thing. If that thing's less than $1,000, I'm going to be impressed. I don't know how they're going to do this.
There's just no way. Yeah,
I just don't know how they're going to do it.
No, and then the good news is they don't need the money. They could waive it off for a year.
Yeah, what they should do is just give you a little kit with the software and let you just install it on whatever PC.
Oh yeah.
I think they did do that originally, right? With Steam. I think you can install
for the developers. Right?
Yeah,
it's all
right. I mean, it seems like look, there's an audience for that box, no doubt about it. But I think there's an even bigger audience of just enthusiasts who are like, look, I'm already taking an old laptop and running Linux on it. It has an NVIDIA GPU in it.
Let's be clear. They can, if they put a new version of a new Half-Life game on it, charge whatever you want.
Yeah, that would be the kit, right? That's
the end of it.
The OS and Half-Life.
And Half-Life 3,
I guess.
Right? Or, if you really want, if you've got the nerve to do Half-Life 2 Part 3, fine. That's delightful. But I'm going to do Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
I want to taste the ashes.
And then Nintendo, related to Leo's recent purchase, is going to charge different prices for physical and digital media, which arguably is maybe a long time coming.
Yeah, because it's $80 for the card.
That's the thing. Like I thought, when I first saw this, I thought, well, this is nice because people who you should be buying games digitally at this point. I know there are reasons not to. You can save some money that way.
Yeah.
Except that actually all they're going to do is just charge $10 more for the physical version. So they're not lowering the price on the digital version. They're raising the price on the physical version. So because
I just bought Cyberpunk, the Ultimate Edition, and it was only $60. So
only $60.
What a deal!
In Nintendo you're kind of stuck. It's not like there's not a Steam or
third party store. Yeah. You're going to buy.
This is the thing. Like in the PC space, one thing that's really nice is you can shop the sales, right? And so Steam, in fact, right now might be still in the middle or at the tail end of a spring sale, whatever it is. But between GOG and Epic and Steam and Microsoft too on the Xbox side. Xbox PC, games are on sale. So like if I want to buy a game, I'll look and see where, if it's in different places, see if I can get it for cheaper.
What they do is they give you virtual game cards. Like that's like you have a card, but it's not. It's just
an
icon.
You've got a QR code, effectively, a token of something that allows you to own the game.
Yeah.
That's what you're buying an EFT in the shape of
it's like an NFT. Yes, exactly.
NFT. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, it's 60 gigabytes for Cyberpunk, and it is the full game. So that's pretty good.
And it loads in.
Yeah. So I bet that.
Yeah. So fits in
that game on Xbox has got to be twice that size.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I don't know how they got it so small.
Yeah.
Assets.
Yeah. It's lower res assets.
They got a little asset.
No, but that's great. You got a nice little asset there, buddy.
Yeah, baby. You got a good asset. It looks good. Yeah. I think it's 4K on the TV.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
It would be reasonable to expect a mobile thing like that just to be full HD. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, on this, it only needs to be HD. But yeah, I think maybe I should check because maybe not all games are 4K. I don't know. But
But that's a big AAA title. I mean, that's a legit, high end game. So,
and I bought it when it first came out. It was so buggy. I didn't get very.
I never played it partially for that reason. Yeah. I knew there were so many problems, but you can get that kind of cheap on PC now. Sometimes on sale. So
right,
maybe it's been around for a while.
Yeah, maybe it's not a bad time.
I think it's just going to be fun to have a game with a story that you can pick up. Then it's more like I'm reading a book because I don't want to feel guilty.
It uses multiple ways to finish it too. Like there's no one ending in Cyberpunk. Like
plus there's hookers and strippers.
There's hookers. It's like GTA, but not quite GTA.
I don't know what's in it. I shouldn't say that. I've heard it's kind of sexy.
Is Keanu Reeves in it? Is it
Keanu Reeves? It looks like a guy who looks like Keanu Reeves is in it.
I see.
I don't know if that's actually official.
It's an AI.
He voiced it. Yeah.
Did he? Oh, neat.
Yeah, he was on stage about it.
That's right.
That's neat.
Yeah, back in the day.
I think him being on stage was one of the cooler kind of video game announcement moments.
Yeah.
Him and when The Rock was there for the Xbox with Bill Gates. Bill Gates says something like, "Well, I think," and he goes, "Nobody cares what you think, Bill."
It was really a good moment. I really enjoyed that moment.
It was the best.
It's a classic.
I think that's my favorite of all time.
Yeah, it's
just classic. Him shutting down Bill Gates was just beautiful. When he was still a wrestler at the time,
right? And it's scary looking too.
Yeah.
Newman's saying in our Discord that Idris Elba is also in the DLC.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's a star-studded Cyberpunk 2077.
When he came out on stage on the E3, I think somebody shouted, "Your breath, he's breathtaking," or "You're breathtaking." And he pointed back.
He's like, "You're breathtaking." Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep. You're breathtaking, baby.
Is like, what am I at again?
Keanu seems like one of those really present guys, actually. He's pretty
we are, I think he wants to run for governor, doesn't he? Or maybe president. I've heard he has political aspirations.
As long as he brings Ted with him, or Bill, or whoever the other guy is.
Oh, not Keanu. I was talking about The Rock.
Oh, The Rock. Oh, never mind.
Yes. I don't care. No, I like Keanu. Keanu's great.
President. He's not born in America.
I'd vote for him for president. What could possibly go wrong?
Here you go.
Whoa.
Keanu's a Canadian.
Dude, this White House rips.
What's with all the gold?
Yeah. You really wonder what's going to happen with the next president. He's going to inherit a White House with a big pit in the East Wing.
Right.
And a bunch of gold
painted.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we have sandblasting. And last time he got run out of office, I was thinking, man, they must have fumigated that place for 2 months before anyone even went in there,
Oh, Paul, losing us listeners by the dozen.
I'm sorry. There's still people who think he's got a brain in his head?
Nobody's left.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Please. There's no defense to be made.
Well, the president will be speaking tonight, and I will be watching.
Oh, really?
With interest.
I'll be watching a spaceship take off tonight. Will be my.
Oh yes, we're gonna. By the way, I wanted to mention that to our space buffs. Artemis is scheduled to launch in the middle of Intelligent Machines. If if the countdown gets down to a minute, it isn't scrubbed due to thunder and lightning. Very, very frightening. We will go to it, and you can watch it. We can all watch it together, which I think is a fun thing to do. So don't worry, you won't be missing anything. You're watching Windows Weekly with Mr. Paul Thurrott, Mr. Richard Campbell. So glad to have you, and you're going to be glad because guess what? Already almost before I even knew it, we are to the back of the book, and we kick things off with Paul's tip of the week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so there have been 2 GitHub-related controversies in the past week or so. The first one, I think Richard might have brought up earlier, where they had, or maybe it was before the show started, they were inserting advertisements into push requests, I think it was, the pull requests or whatever it was.
They were supposed to be tips.
Yeah. Well, the things in the start menu are supposed to be recommendations.
Those are recommendations for a product. So
those are recommendations to buy something. It's like an ad, but it's not. We don't call it. We don't call it.
I never saw the GitHub stuff. What was it? Nothing should be in a GitHub commit.
It was as part of a PR because it writes all the PRs. Yeah. It included tips on a better way to do this would be XYZ, and then one of them came up as you could use.
They're
this
like you could turn your phone into a PDF scanner for $20 for life. That kind of thing.
But they say it's a mistake. That was
they said it was a mistake. That makes sense. That's
AI makes mistakes all the time.
Yeah,
it's very helpful.
The big difference between in the lab and in the wild, and as soon as it got in the wild, it went wacky and
I'm
they showed up.
Yeah.
Just ask Tay.
Or do not ask.
Don't talk to Tay.
I want to see like Tay and Siri battle it out. Siri's just like, I don't know what's going on. Why are you so mean to me all the time? Anyway, the other one though is that if you have a code repository or whatever else you might have stored in GitHub, like I use GitHub to store my books, for example, it's how LeanPub gets to them. They're going to start training AI models by default on that data unless you opt out. And so the tip, so to speak, is if you do not want that, you should opt out now because that goes into effect. I'm not sure what the date is, but I think it's sometime April 24th onward. Specific inputs, outputs is their terminology. Code snippets, associated context across Copilot Free, Pro Plus, but not Business and Enterprise. Will be used to train and improve GitHub's AI models. So if you don't want that, go in to get the settings for your account on GitHub, Copilot features, Copilot then features, and then there's an option you'll see there called allow GitHub to use my data for AI model training. It's under privacy, and you can set that to nope. I think the technical word is disabled. I don't think they use the word nope, but
nope would be better. Nope.
Nope.
And this is an aside because we're talking about GitHub. I've been working on that Notepad clone that's now called WinUI and the multi-document, multi-tab version of it, which still has bugs, but is now available on my GitHub account. If you want to fork it and play with it and do whatever you want to do with it, who cares? You can have it. So it's there. And then the app pick is something I'm seriously considering switching to, honestly. When I came to Threat.com, which was almost 10 years ago, I joined a company called BWW, which was originally Blue Whale Web, but became BWW Media. And they were using a Google Workspace infrastructure. And that's what I still use. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. But Proton, which is a company I really trust, and they make apps like Mail, Calendar, Drive, Docs, Sheets, and VPN. And also they have an awesome authenticator app it's everywhere, but use it on mobile typically. Has kind of closed the loop on this, and they've added a Meet app, which EE, not EA, which is like Teams or Google Meet, also EE, in that you can have chats and audio and video calls. But of course, this is Proton, so it's all encrypted end-to-end and zero access, blah, 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 whatever. So now they're offering what is essentially a replacement for various Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 tiers called Proton Workspace, right? And so Proton Workspace standard is about $13 a month per user when paid annually in the United States. And then there's a premium version that's $19.99 per month. That one adds, it goes from 1 to 3 terabytes of cloud storage per user. There's email data retention policies and, higher limits in the Meet calls, et cetera, et cetera. It's worth thinking about. They're
Did I tell you I signed up my Proton account for the VPN?
No.
I did.
So I
keep looking at the mail to think, am I going to use this as the house mail, right? Because with all the IoT stuff, having a separate account is kind of smart. But
Yep. So I've never made the switch to email. I use Google or Proton Pass, which is the password manager, and Proton Authenticator.
So if you get Proton Ultimate, you get all of the above, or
they're big on modeling.
So Proton, I'm not sure what Proton Ultimate is, probably an individual plan.
I maybe have made that up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I know I have that, like some high-end Proton thing.
They've had plans for individuals for some time and families, right? I think the way they do it is they have, an individual plan, maybe multiple. There's one for couples, right? So if it's you and your wife or whatever. They have family, of course, and now but they've had these business offerings too, right? So Proton Mail, Calendar, et cetera, has been available for businesses as well as individuals. And so the Workspace plans are their plans for businesses, like where it's all the stuff, and as an individual, you can do this as well. Not works. I mean, you could. I don't know why you would, but you could. They have plans like this for individuals. So the new bit is that they've kind of completed what most businesses would need by having a meeting app, and now they have the plans where you can get multiple services for less than you would pay if you were paying, per service or whatever.
So let me just look what I have here, because it seems like I have a lot of.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which one I'm on.
Meet. No, I do have Meet.
You do?
Yeah.
Oop.
So I have Mail, Calendar, Pass, VPN, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Wallet, Lumo, and Meet.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So it's not Google Meet. It's their own Meet.
This is Proton
That's
Meet.
a little confusing.
It's like, I can't believe it's not butter, but it's meat.
Butter. Meat.
What's it called? What's that meat replacement thing that's the worst thing that's ever happened in the environment?
Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat. Yeah. It's Beyond Meat.
Beyond
Proton Meat is
the Beyond Meat.
It's Beyond. It's the Beyond Meat.
Yeah. So I guess whatever this account is that I have here, which I'm now giving away the email to, which is too bad because it's no longer private, but I don't use it, so I guess it's okay. I sign up for this stuff so I can.
Yeah, so maybe they brought Meat to the individual plans as well. I'm not even.
So I even have a Bitcoin wallet in here. I wonder if there's anything in it. This is really, they're really going after Google, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Docs, Sheets, Drive.
I feel like what they're doing to Google is what Google did to Microsoft back when they started. Gmail was the beginning of it. And I think their first product, Protons, was Mail, I believe, was Proton Mail.
Yeah.
But the angle called not a tech giant is a pretty good angle.
Oh, and not in the US, not in Switzerland anymore.
And 100%, privacy based, all open source, so anyone can review the code and make sure it's what they say it is.
CERN scientists, so you like that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between CERN scientists. Wait, what?
Invented the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Weird.
Usually it's like a guitarist, not a CERN scientist. But okay, that's fine.
You know what's missing is a Slack competitor.
Well, I think that's what Meet is. That's essentially Meet. Because Meet will do chats.
Oh, it does.
Audio and video.
Oh, it is then. Okay. Yeah. I never liked the name for chat video calls. It's huddles.
Oh, God, I can't. I literally, you caused a chilly up the back of my spine when you said that word. I hate that word so much.
Let's huddle.
Much. Because we would have these meetings like at work, when I worked at that company and we had an outside contractor we worked with. And, let's say it was like Tuesday, 2:00 in the afternoon, we have a meeting, you're waiting. And it's like 7 after. And then suddenly one of the people gets in and is like, you guys ready to huddle? It's like, yeah, we've been ready to huddle for 10 minutes. Can we just start with this?
Huddle.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that term so much.
Oh, okay. So it looks like there's an upsell on this. For a mere 215 euros a year, I could then get
the icon there to encourage you
more meat or something.
I need more meat.
Extra meaty.
Extra meaty.
Now with extra meat.
60,
I like it.
So let's see, $18 a month. So, okay. So I have Proton Unlimited.
Is that what it's okay? Is that the real name of it?
Yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even know which one I have, but I have access to all this stuff as well. I saw the same screen you just showed.
They're suggesting I currently have Proton Unlimited.
I also have Proton Unlimited.
Yeah, and they're suggesting Proton Duo, which is lesser than.
I think it's isn't that unlimited for 2 people? I think that's
I get it. So if I want to have a Slack with 2 people,
right?
Well, you're looking at
you want meet. You need someone to meet with. So get the Duo.
That's right. It's not Proton Solo, Leo. Come on.
That's
ChatGPT. Oh yeah, you know what? Duo is more than unlimited.
Yeah, I think it's unlimited for 2 people. I think is the point of it.
Okay,
I believe.
I get it. Okay. So if I could just find somebody who wants to do this together.
Well, okay, but you still, you're looking at these are the plans for people, right? And so the thing I just meant, the workspace stuff is for businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. So they don't, don't show all my stuff. It's not as private as it ought to be. Oh, well, I'm going to have to get a new email account, I guess. The truth is, don't email me at that account because I don't use it. So I bought it to see what it is.
Yeah.
That's part of my job to look at this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing to actually make it part of your workflow.
Well, you can't really assess it unless you live it.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
No, I appreciate it. Having hung around with Paul a fair bit, his ability to take a laptop he loathes and continue to use it to be able to review it successfully. Yeah. Right? That's a special kind of masochism.
Yeah.
It's definitely special. It's like short bus special, but yeah. It's okay.
There are business plans. I see now.
There you go.
Okay. Now we're getting into the real money. So if I wanted to use it as Slack.
So yeah, part of my reticence, I guess, other than just normal switching stuff and moving to Proton, is the drive stuff to date for individuals has been a little weird. Like they haven't offered like really big drive like storage allotments. But when you look at the business stuff, it's like 1 terabyte in the base level and then 3
per user
at the higher level. It's like, okay, now we're, you're getting into, this is more where I think they need to be. So
I'm going to think about it. A 24-hour meeting if you really want to go crazy.
Every meeting I've ever been felt like it was 24 hours.
Yeah, right. Interesting. And the idea behind Meet is that it is, more secure. It's encrypted.
That's right.
Like everything else Proton does. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I should probably, we're a Google Drive house, TWiT.
Yeah, no, we are the same. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
But we maybe should look at this. It's not more expensive.
Look at it. I mean, yeah, that's the issue. So it's not just the cost. You want to make sure it works.
Good.
It does it work as well, right? And that's the thing I'm not entirely clear on. So I suspect it is very good. I mean, honestly,
I think they're really good, and because it's open source, I really like that.
Yep.
I think there's a lot.
Right company. The company.
Yeah. And it's not big tech,
That's right.
And one of the reasons they're beefing up like this is because there's a huge move in Europe, at least.
Oh yeah,
not the
this
rest
is
of the world.
such good timing for this
American
company.
Big tech,
Yes, 100%.
The polite way we talk about it is data sovereignty.
That's right. HIPAA compliant.
So one of my suggestions, as I do at the beginning of each year on RunAs Radio to the admins, was to talk to legal about data sovereignty. Just in general, like that.
It's a big deal.
I got 2 talking points for you to take to legal. One is dealing with supply chain attacks is now a legal risk. Like you will be sued. There's someone to sue. And the other one is data sovereignty is top of mind.
Ironically, or not unironically, this is the first time I heard data sovereignty was out of Satya Nadella's mouth. He was talking about that a few years ago.
Yeah, well, that's a big issue for Microsoft because they're hitting those regulatory issues, especially in Europe. And one of the advantages. Sorry.
They were the subject of Schrems. That was the whole thing, was let's get Microsoft. So
yeah. I mean, there definitely was a time when they were saying, no, we're protecting people's data. You don't have a right to this.
Right.
And now they're saying, if someone asks, I mean, we'll listen to them. I don't know.
We'll follow the law.
Follow the law. That's the out. That's the weasel words.
Nobody wants you to follow the law. What I want you to do is what I want you to do.
Right.
And in Proton's case, I would just say like they don't have a way to access this information. So that's the point.
That's the truth.
No one can get to it, including them. Whereas in Microsoft's case, they're like, well, no one can get to it. Well, I mean, except for us. And if you ask nicely, maybe we'll see.
We are going to get to the Brown Liquor pick of the week and the RunAs Radio pick of the week in just a moment. I just want to give you a little pitch for Club TWiT. Actually, that was a demonstration of without Club TWiT, this is what TWiT would look like. Nothing. Club TWiT keeps us alive at this point. 30% of our revenue or our operating costs come from you, our club members. So first thing I should always say is thank you to our club members. We really appreciate them. Now, of course, most club members aren't going to see this because if you're a member of Club TWiT, you don't get any ads. You don't get these, minutes of begging. But there are some Club TWiT members watching live in our Club TWiT Discord, so they get to see this. So thank you. I really appreciate it. $10 a month. You get ad-free versions of everything we do. You get access to the Club TWiT Discord. You get special programming just for the club, like our AI users group, which is really fun, really great. We have some very smart people in the club. It's one of the best reasons to join the club is the smarty pants who hang out in Discord. You can ask them questions. They're great. I've learned a lot from them. We also have Micah's Crafting Corner. It was very chill. He's doing the paint by numbers thing, but you don't have to do that. You could do any craft and hang out with Micah every month. Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson this week in space. The guys, by the way, are at Cape Canaveral for the Artemis launch this afternoon. They're very excited about that. You can bet there'll be some good coverage on This Week in Space. We do Stacy's Book Club. We do the photo show, Photo Time with Chris Marquardt every month. There's just a lot of reasons to join the club, but the most important reason, I think, is if you like the content that we provide at TWiT, yes, it's free, it's ad-supported, and we welcome all of our listeners. But if you want to show a little extra support, that's the way to do it. twit.tv/club-twit. We thank you so much for your support. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this would be a good time to focus in on Mr. Richard Campbell and RunAs Radio.
Oh, I got a real special show this week. So folks have been asking about my home lab, and so I decided I would explain a little of what's going on up here since we moved up a few years ago.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, so it's not a real long show. There's only so much story to tell, but it's good fun. So yeah, I
will be watching this. I want to.
I've had a few folks come back to me.
We've got it all set up. Episode 1030, it's not April Fool's. This is the real deal.
Well, don't go that far.
Now I really want to listen. Yep. Are there beakers? Will there be a Jacob's ladder? Welcome to my home lab.
Actually, to me, what it sounded like was Dr. No describing his island.
Yeah.
There was a real Bond villain kind of nature too.
Here I am.
How he's powering his...
in my mountain lair. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spoil that. Okay. Yeah. Everybody should listen and find out.
You go to the website there in the show links. The last link is, a video tour of the home lab.
Can't wait to see it. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, Richard Campbell and his liquor pick.
This is not an April Fool's Day thing by any stretch of the imagination. I was at the MVP Summit, and I often come home with special whiskey, and this is certainly one of them. This is Jephthah Creed. So when we talk about Jephthah Creed, we're talking about Shelbyville, Kentucky. So this is about half an hour drive east on the 64 out of Louisville on your way to Frankfurt, which is, where Pappy and all those other whiskeys are made. So this is, in bluegrass country. This is exactly what you're looking for. This part of the world was explored by Daniel and Squire Boone back in the 1700s.
Is Daniel Boone, I didn't know about Squire, his brother?
Squire was his brother, yeah. I mentioned Squire because the very first settlement in the area was called Squire Boone Station. And he also, because they were the first Europeans mapping out the area, they named a bunch of the land, and one of the things that Squire pointed to was he called it a mountain, and he called it Jephthah Mountain after the character in the Book of Judges. Later, it's been renamed Jephthah Knob because it's the bluegrass country. That's not really a mountain.
That's not a hill. That's a knob.
It's just a knob. Yeah. It's when Kentucky becomes a state in 1792. There's a competition for the various counties as to where they're going to operate the county from. And the state, Squire Boone Station was one of the candidates, but the other one was this area here, Shelbyville, where a farmer granted enough land for the county facilities, so forth. And so they won it, per se. At the time, Shelbyville was built on the western bank of the Clear Creek, where it meets Mulberry Creek today. The town, which covers about 18,000 people, is on both sides of all of the creeks because it's gotten bigger, oddly enough.
And you've been there, right? I mean, I
have driven through. I did not stop at this distillery, but yes, I've been throughout this.
It sounds like it's really pretty.
This is lush green. It's beautiful land, and it is a humid subtropical climate if you use those categories. So hot, humid summers, very mild winters. It's a beautiful spot, and it is agricultural land. So around Shelbyville, there is corn, hemp. There used to be tobacco, lots of wheat, pork, beef. Like it is a farming area. The most famous person out of there, besides the mention of the Boones, who are only there briefly, the Colonel Sanders. Yes, that Colonel Sanders of KFC fame.
Yes.
Moved there in 1960 and stayed there until he passed away in 1980.
He's still alive.
He lives on in our memories anyway. Yeah.
Nothing goes better than whiskey than Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm just saying.
I'm a little prone to burnt ends, but I'll take you.
I like burnt ends too. Yeah. I do like the burnt ends.
For me, Kentucky Fried Chicken is one of those things. It's like your childhood memories of it are amazing.
Yeah,
and if you have it today,
it doesn't quite live up to it, does it?
I eat KFC regularly when I'm in the United States. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you still love it.
You know where they love KFC? China.
Yeah.
Oh,
huge in China.
Lots of parts all over the Caribbean. Huge lineups at the KFCs.
Do you know where they ruin it? Is Mexico, and it's really depressing to me. It's terrible here. Yeah,
but that's pollo country.
I know.
Excellent chicken.
I know.
It's just not that one.
It's just not good.
No, you shouldn't eat KFC.
It makes me so sad. Every once in a while, I'll be like, I got to try it again. Nope, still terrible.
Now, one of the things you'll love about Shelbyville is there's actually 2 distilleries there, and they could not be more different. One of them is the Bullet Distillery.
Oh, I've had Bullet Bourbon. Yeah.
This is not the original Bullet Distillery. This is after it's acquired by Diageo, and we haven't done the Bullet story. At some point I will. And Diageo spent $140 million building a mega distillery that opened in 2017. There's still another distillery elsewhere that makes Bullet as well. This one produces about 6.7 million liters a year. It's a huge facility.
And many other brands too, right? I mean, it's not just
that one is specifically just for Bullet.
Just Bullet. Wow.
Yeah, because it's one of the well whiskeys, right? Like pretty much everywhere you go, alongside Jim Beam Wild Turkey, you'll often see Bullet. Mm-hmm. It's got its own style. And then the exact opposite of that is Jephthah Creed. So this is the Netherly family. And the Netherly family, the first name for Netherly was a guy named James Netherly that comes to the area in 1715. So you're talking about 300 years of family heritage in this area, farming around Jephthah Knob. And in the current generation, the grandfather was encouraging his younger generations to buy more land whenever it came available in the area. You know, farming is challenging. And so Bruce Netherly, who grew up on a dairy farm, although every picture I've ever found of him, he was working tobacco, actually bought a farm when he was 18 and was doing tobacco and beef farming in there. And he married a woman named Joyce, who's also from a local family. And Joyce Netherly was actually educated as a chemical engineer. And she spent 15 years doing industrial distilling, not alcohol, but other fun things like methyl methacrylate, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yum! Don't drink
you're
that.
A chemical engineer, that's an intense job. So as they're raising a family and so forth, she dials back and becomes a high school teacher because that's relaxing, and stays closer to the area. And Bruce is the real ambitious one. He's the entrepreneur, always trying different markets, trying to expand product. You know, they're working cattle, so they were also trying to make cheese, things like that. And he pitched the idea to Joyce about doing distilling. Now, her actually being a chemical engineer, so she has a pretty good picture of how hard it is. She's like, that's really not that good of an idea. But it keeps coming back around. And I read a couple of great interviews. It was like, he clearly wasn't letting this go. So she signs him up for a course in Louisville at Moonshine University. Oh, so it's like a 1-week class, sort of teach you everything about doing distilling to get him up to speed. And Bruce doesn't go. He suddenly has a trip to Detroit. Like there's a whole subtext story about was he avoiding the class or what? But Joyce, being the kind of person who's like, we've already paid for this. I am not wasting this. She goes and loves it. Just, it's a very different style, the whole craftsmanship and so forth. And so they, by 2013, are touring around different distilleries in Kentucky, talking to different folks. They have a daughter whose name is Autumn, who at that time is like 19 years old, which is not legal drinking age in the U.S. And so she's going on these drinking tours, essentially, where she's not allowed to drink. But she's also very interested in distilling. The whole family's into that. So there's lots of people willing to teach her up to a point because she can't actually taste the product legally. Her answer then is to go to school in Scotland, where the drinking age is 18. And so she enrolls in the Harriet Watt University in Edinburgh and realizes she's not going to be good at distilling, but she is good at marketing. And so she comes back home. She's like, I don't have my mother's mind, but I get this. And she has a degree in marketing out of Kentucky University. And so This ends up being a mother-daughter team to set up the Jephthah distillery. Not necessarily by plan, but it's what ends up happening. Bruce sticks to farming. And one of the things that Bruce does is he switches the farm over to growing corn, specifically a species of corn they call Bloody Butcher corn. Now, this is an heirloom variety that was developed in the U.S., in Virginia in the 1800s, and it's a deep reddish purple. If you see pictures of the corn on the cob, it's what they call a dent corn. So instead of the kernels bulging out, they actually sort of push in a bit, and it's this dark red color that when you strip the kernels, the milk that splatters from that is red enough that it says it looks like a bloody butcher's apron. So that's where the name comes
Interesting.
from.
Huh.
Now, dent corn is very common. It's not your normal. It's not typically for eating. You can eat it, but it's
I think
a bit
we had
harder.
dent corn for dinner last night. Actually, it was early season. It
So
could
you
be.
know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's really
dent
early
corn-
season.
It wasn't
Yeah,
red, but it was dented. Definitely.
Yeah, it was probably yellow corn, which is far more common.
Yeah.
Dent corns are generally known for having these high soft starch content, so they actually produce a lot of sugar relative weight. And yeah, the majority of corn grown in the U.S. is dent corn. Your sort of sweet corn, so forth. But
it's used mostly for feed, I imagine. And
yeah, dent corn is normally used for feed, and the yellow corn, the yellow hybrids that come out of the 1960s have dominated the market because their yields are like 2.5 times. Like you'll get about 100 bushels an acre out of Bloody Butcher, but you'll get 250 bushels per acre out of a yellow corn. So, if you're in the business of farming, it is very hard to argue with. Plus, this kind of corn, the Bloody Butcher corn, grows extremely tall. 10 foot tall is not unusual. And so one of the challenges is as it starts to mature, it will flop over and drop the seeds on the ground, which makes harvest much more difficult and expensive. Like this is not easy corn to work with, relatively speaking. It's also an open pollinator, so you're not buying seedlings, a la Monsanto. You're actually keeping seed stock and reseeding in a very traditional way. And so your pollination is tough to control. One of the things that the Jephthah farm has done is they do their own beekeeping now, and they sell honey on the side as well, because that helps to control the pollination. There was a really interesting section in their whole story about what they called the critter share. This kind of corn is also preferred by wild animals. They will walk past yellow corn to get to Bloody Butcher corn. And so they, around the edges of their property, planted more of this corn specifically to let the animals eat it. Just sort of recognizing they're going to invade anyway, so let's leave this over, and it's kind of a good gesture on this. So Bloody Butcher corn is relatively rare and relatively costly. It does not produce in the same kinds of numbers. And there are a few whiskeys out there that use it, but typically as a flavor grain. They'll do yellow corn with a bit of butcher corn and so forth, because it is so costly. By 2016, Jephthah is up and running as a distillery. Of course, it takes a few years to actually make products. So they're laying down their first barrels. They also get into making vodka, so they can have some sales early on and do very well, because they are doing corn-based vodkas. That's the product they've got. Probably not butcher corn. That's kind of a waste, because you're just doing high distillation on the column still. Their whole motto is grain to glass. They are growing the grain. They're right down to they're doing their own bottling right in the same facility. They've got a pretty typical, what I would call a craftsman production setup. So stainless steel mash cookers. They got 8 1,000-gallon open-top wooden washbacks that are made of white oak. Again, very local, but also very small. We in Scotland, those washbacks would be 30,000 gallons. These are 1,000 gallons. 12-inch column still, 500-gallon copper pot still, probably a Vendrome. Again, all very local. And very traditional barreling, charred American oak. They use a number 3 toast. And they've got some fairly substantial rack houses on the property, up to about 15,000 barrels with no temperature controls. Super traditional, even down to doing their own bottling.
This makes me want to drink this. I think this is
totally.
wonderful.
They've done such a good job of this. And the story fits. They make 9 barrels of whiskey a day. 9.
Wow.
As compared to down the road at the Bullet Distillery, who does 92 barrels a day.
Yeah.
So this is just a small production, small team, craftsman whiskey. So they started up in 2016, so it takes 3 years to be able to call it whiskey. So 2019, their first production whiskey, they called the 4-grain bourbon, with 70% Bloody Butcher corn, with 15% malted rye, 10% malted wheat, and 5% malted barley. That is not what I'm drinking here today. This is the 6-year-old wheated bourbon. So obviously it took a little longer, right? The first production versions of these come out in 2024. This, I believe, is a 2026. 93 proof. It is 75% corn. That's a lot of corn. With yellow corn, this would be very sweet. 20% malted wheat, 5% malted barley. So the wheat's nominally the flavor grain, and then 5% malted barley is your typical amylase provider. That's not unusual, and immediately wins gold medal awards. So let's look at the color on that for a 6-year-old.
It's beautiful.
That is that corn, right? That corn gives the lens a lot of color. So no heady nose. Remember, we're talking here 46, 47%. This ought to have a little more heat to it. Wow. So big caramelly rich notes, got almost no heat on it at all. It's just it's nicely warming. You're not used to getting character flavor from the corn, but that's what you're getting here. It's just a really rich, mouth-filling sip of bourbon without any of the fire. There's no rye in this, right? None of that heat. It's all kind of smooth. Like, boy, oh boy, that's sipping bourbon. You wouldn't want to do anything else with this. And priced accordingly. This is $66. Now, that's not an outrageous amount. Consider you get a bottle of Bullet for $20. And, most nice bourbons go somewhere in the $40 to $60 range. So this is on the high side. But you're talking about a pretty rare product. And the only reason I have this is my buddy Ed Charbonneau brought it to me at the MVP Summit. He knew I'd love it. And he was right. It's a fantastic product from a remarkable company.
You're drinking the wheated
This
flavor.
Is the wheated bourbon, the 6-year-old. So this is the oldest that they got. Gold medals in San Francisco and New York last year.
Boy, now I want to try some.
It's really brilliant. Yeah, it's stunning. And it's that craftsmanship story I love so much. I mean, totally intentional. This is a family that set out to make whiskey. They fell in love with it. They're not long-term whiskey makers. I'm sure their family back in the day did, because they've been there for 300 years, and Prohibition probably shut it all down. And then you throw in the loss of the corn, which has now sort of been rekindled. Like, it's just taken a while to get to this place, but they've making an awesome thing.
I like it that it's a family farm, and that this is their
It didn't
crop.
plan to be a mother-daughter thing, but that's what happened, and so more power to it.
Yeah.
And look at that corn. Like,
That's
what
beautiful.
a color.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see where it goes too, right into the bottle. That's really
not to
amazing.
compare to Jack Daniels. So one of the things I've loved about Jack Daniels is everything's made in the one place, right? It's and this is the same thing. They've done this little operation, 9 barrels a day, little bottling runs. It's very special whiskey.
Wow, neat. Jephthah Creed.
That's
From the Jephthah Knob of
Never heard of
Kentucky.
this. It's crazy.
I haven't either.
No, and why would you? It's Shelbyville. Like, this is not Frankfort, Kentucky. This is not Louisville. This is a
small
whistle
town.
stop in between the two.
Small town bourbon.
But
the real deal, right? I bet this is closer to the real deal.
Very legit. This bottle is not going to be around for very long.
Yeah. You mean
I did find it
specifically
out-
his bottle?
I'm not going to serve it. Listen, I have a lot of bottles of whiskey. Oddly enough, I talk about them every week, and people, I was just at the MVP Summit. I have a few more, but I know perfectly well when She Who Must Be A gets a taste of this will disappear.
It's good. It's good.
very
That's the
good.
good stuff. I love it. Well, Richard, you've brought us something. You're going to turn me into a drunk yet.
No, you're pretty
We're
careful.
working on him.
You just need a taste of this. You need to know.
I do want to taste it. I'll get some for when friends visit. That sounds really good.
You will impress with this one. It's special. And the Bloody Butcher corn story is good fun. The stunner for anybody who loves bourbon is 75% corn, because any other bourbon at 75%, it would just be sweet. And this is not.
Yeah. Lovely. Once again, you've capped off a fun Windows Weekly with a great little brown liquor. Thank you, Richard Campbell. You'll find him at runasradio.com, and of course .NET Rocks, and listen to the Geek Outs. And I think later this afternoon you'll probably be sitting in front of the TV or the internet watching the Artemis 2 launch, as we
I will.
Yeah.
I'm also working on, I can't believe I'm doing this, but Lars has bullied me into it. I'm working, I am expanding the network on the property here. I'm going to make a YouTube video of building out the new data point. I
want to see that.
Yeah, I've shot a bunch of pieces for it now, and it's going to take a while to assemble it. But
you're a hardworking fella.
I like making stuff, and then it's slowing me down actually deploying this. I just want to build it to actually film it all, but it's like, okay, I'll film it too.
Yeah. Mr. Paul Thurrott, you'll find him at thurrott.com. Strangely enough, it's a coincidence, but it happens to be.
It's just worked out.
Just worked out that way. He has his books too at leanpub.com. Although if you become, I don't know if this is still available, but if you become a premium member at thurrott.com, you get all the books as part of your membership, or you can get them direct if you're already a member at leanpub.com. They gather together every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC, to do this fine show, Windows Weekly. And you can watch us do it live. Now, of course, club members get to watch in the Discord, but everybody else, you can watch on YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. We stream it on as many platforms as we can get so that you can watch it live. But you don't have to watch it live. There's audio and video versions available at the website, twit.tv/WW. The YouTube channel has the video. Great way to share little clips. Everybody can watch it on YouTube. That makes it easier. And, of course, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That way you get it automatically the minute it emerges from the editor's den.
Yep. Like a proto-life forum of some kind.
Amazing. Kind of amazing.
And Kev's hammered out a few more of the Whiskey Weeklies, too. So there's...
Yeah, good. Something weird from mycloset.com for all of those.
Probably should grab a shorter domain for that, but
No, it's a great name.
It's hilarious.
How could you forget that, right? Yeah. Something weird from my closet. I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you all, you winners and your dozers. And we will see you all next Wednesday right here on Windows Weekly.